is up, our good people of the internet? You are here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for a very special edition of Tortora and Alford, a 6-0 edition of Tortora and Alford, a top 14 ranked team in the nation edition of Tortora and Alford, a 3-0 in the ACC Tortora and Alford, a 5-0 at home Tortora and Alford, and a defeat of top 15 at the time in the AP, 13 in the coaches poll, NC State special Tortora and Alford. So with that being said, Isaac Alford, Dan Tortora, this is a fantastic way to spend the first 2 hours of your week.
Yes.
How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. And the 49,000 that was in attendance.
Yes.
You know, we're all doing good today. 6-0. That feeling was amazing this weekend to watch the team go out there and handle their business.
Yeah.
It started off a great day in the Wildcat with Nate Trout and led up to the game, and then the guys at the game did what they had to do, and you know what? 6-0. Bowl bound.
Yes. Going to a bowl game, and we know that now, know that already. Syracuse halfway through the season and already in a bowl game. And you think about all these 5 and 7 years and 4 and 8 years and 1 and 10 and how you needed all 12 games to try and get a sniff of anything. They get bowl eligible in the first half of the season, knowing that this next half of the season, these next 6 games, however they go, Syracuse is already bowl bound, and with an opportunity now at leading in the Atlantic Division with Clemson coming up, with having a chance at an ACC championship game for the first time ever, and the more you win, the deeper you will get into bowl season. So the more wins Syracuse has, staying in the top 25 and rising in the top 25, the better your bowl game becomes. So when people say, oh, they're bowl bound, okay, so it doesn't matter. No, it does matter because now the season has just begun. You're 6-0, like Dino said at the end of the game. We have secured, I'm paraphrasing here, but he said, we have secured one of our goals.
Yes.
But there's plenty other goals out there. To win the Atlantic, to win the ACC, and to get into an awesome postseason berth. The more you win, the later you play, because they start around December 13th. They go all the way to the New Year's Six Bowls and the college football playoff. Syracuse is going to be working from here on out against some very tough teams. They're going to be at Clemson, home against Notre Dame, who hasn't had a great year, but obviously Notre Dame's going to play up for that. There's some history with Syracuse. And then you have Syracuse having Florida State at home for their last home game, and then around all of that at BC, at Wake, at Pitt. So it does not get any easier from here, and it's going to be an awesome ride.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty amazing, like you just said, just thinking about that. You come in and see, you just take care of business the first 6 games. How many times, like you said, we got to 5-1, and then we just like, oh, man, can we just get that one victory? And then you look at the schedule, and like, oh, man, the schedule's backloaded. It's like, or if you had like 4-2 or something, you're like, oh, man, there was that one loss that we should have had in our pockets, But, just to do it right out of the gate to get the first 6.
Yeah.
And now, like you said, now everything else, the board is set up for those guys. They can go higher and higher. It ain't just that one goal of saying, hey, we want to make the bowl. Now it's, like you just said, the division, let's get to the ACC title game. You know what? Anything is still available. Everything and all things on the table. Nothing to say, hey, we just fighting for this one goal just to make the postseason. No.
Yeah.
Let's make it special.
I'm hoping that that's Syracuse of old. Just get to 6-6. Just get to a bowl game. Right? That's what fans have been saying recently. And if you fight for your limitations, you get to keep them. And that's something that I always think about. If you fight for your limitations, you get to keep them. You fight for 6-6, then if that's the best you ever want to be, then that's the best you're ever going to be. But Syracuse, remember, fired Paul Pasqualoni for going 6-6 for 2 straight seasons. Paul Pasqualoni, I think it was something within 19 seasons, had like 1 losing record or something ridiculous. And most of the time he was winning. Most of the time he was putting his team in great footing. And before that, Coach Mack, and bringing up Coach Mack, rest in peace and God bless. I got to meet Cam and Mackie's mom. So I got to meet the wonderful Mrs. McPherson, and celebrate, just her children and how great they were to my G-Mama when they met her. And so we were at Carvel DeWitt and my grandma loves Carvel.
Mm-hmm.
And I had her in there, and she was sitting in her wheelchair, and Cam and Mackie came walking in, and I introduced her to them, and they were so sweet, and they came over to her, and they said, "Hi, how's your day? You know, hi Marie, how are you?" And she looked up and she goes, "Not one, but two." You know, so she was like, "Ooh," and then she was like, you know, she always tried to make a pass at people. So, you know, Cam and Mackie, very awesome. To G Mama, I thank you for that. And at my dad's retirement party after 42 years of service as someone who wears the white hat as a prosecutor, Mrs. McPherson made her way over to my dad's party and celebrated with my dad, and I got to meet her for the first time. So, big shout out to the McPherson family, and obviously Coach Mack. The last time Syracuse started a season 6-0 was in 1987, and from what Rob Drummond always talks to me about, it ended pretty well, undefeated. Syracuse has been undefeated twice in their storied history: 1959 when they won a national championship with Ernie Davis, and 1987 with one of my closest friends, Rob Drummond, where they went 11-0-1. The one tie being when you could tie in a bowl game, where they were beating Auburn the whole time, and Auburn kicked a field goal at the end of the game to try and save face in the SEC. So the last time Syracuse went undefeated, 1987 at 11-0-1, and now they're trying to do it again. The last time they started 6-0 was in 1987.
Yeah, and Coach P definitely was putting people in the league and doing, like you said, you might have had a few slips here and there, but he was consistently with the program, you know, making sure that they, like you said, they didn't just settle for 6-6. You know, they was going 8-5, 9-3, or whatever the case may be. And I saw a funny stat just before we did the show. It was like Coach Mack was in his 7th season until when they went undefeated that year, and now Dino, he's in his 7th season. So if the story rewrites itself, that'll be even awesome story to watch evolve, because me coming from the South, I wasn't around for the 87.
Yeah.
But this is kind of special, kind of watch this team go through what they're going through. And because, you know, we've seen the last few years of how, like you said, we just been fighting to get the 6 wins. So, yeah, it definitely is special.
Yeah, when you get to 6, I said, I didn't know that they did this in arenas. I don't know if they do it in other arenas, but as soon as Syracuse won, they had the graphic up with the big block S, and it said Syracuse Bowl bound. And I thought, well, I wouldn't know if we had this or not because we never get to see it this early. I said Clemson in the first 6 weeks, they get to see this all the time. In Death Valley, they probably have it up there on the board. Hey, we're bowl eligible already 6 weeks in. So shout out to Syracuse for being another color orange that gets to, in the first 6 weeks of their season, first 7 with the bye week, but first 6 games of their season to be bowl eligible, 6 in. You need 6 to get in. They're 6-0, and it's the first time that Isaac and I ever saw that graphic of, hey, Syracuse is already bowl bound with 6 wins at 6-0, which is a really, really special thing. And yeah, you know, sports has an interesting way of finding a way to rewrite itself. I want to handle something, though, at the beginning of the show, and I tell people all the time, we do preseason rankings and preseason predictions, and then I always say a few games in, you should be allowed to make an in-season prediction and thought, you know, because when you make a preseason prediction, you're basing it on paper and what you see, right? You're not basing it on who gets injured, what happens, how does this team start, what does this team do, does this coordinator make sense, and this, that, whatever. So I always tell people preseason predictions where I have been right, and no, the media nor have many people out there said anything to me about when I was right in 2016 when Syracuse went to Houston. But, you know, as the only crazy media person to have them as high as I did, still waiting for your apology letters. You can address those with the Toronto Raptor apology letters, too, that you sent to me 24 years in when I got my championship that they told me I would never get because I liked the only team that didn't play in America, and how could I be American? So
how dare you?
Yeah. So, you know, those apology letters can come. But I want to address this because I always think we should do a preseason and an in-season, and not an in-season 11 games out of 12, but an in-season, like, let's watch the first couple games and make a thought. So, because I always do, sometimes I have the same thought, sometimes it's different, but my preseason was 5-7 with an outside shot at 6-6, and I don't think that many people besides me that really took a good hard look at this team and what was on paper and what had happened in the past with all the talent that they've had, the talent's been individually good, but not collectively great.
Right.
And so, I know, I'm just I'm preempting any of you Twitter fingers or your little trigger fingers that you don't use on the actual trigger because you're squirrely. So you just, hide behind here, eat your Cheerios in your parents' basement, in your Long Johns, and leave us alone. But I know you're going to write, oh, Dan, didn't you have them at, and didn't you blah, blah, blah. Yeah, preseason-wise, we all have thoughts, and then in season, a few games in, I always address that. And I've done it every year. I've said, I think Syracuse is going to go 5-7. Then I'll look at the thing and go, I think they can go 8-4. Mm-hmm. Or I'll say 3 games in, hey, I said this is a 7-win team. I really think they're going to win 4.
Right.
So it can go either way. But I said, and I quote myself repeatedly, I, in the comfort of my own home, as a Syracuse native and growing up a fan and loving these guys, they know that I want them to go 12-0 every year. With that being said, as an impartial broadcaster, because I think it's a cardinal sin to be a partial broadcaster, I had them at 5-7 with an outside chance at 6-6. And I said I hope they prove me wrong. So, just to address the fact of what I said in the preseason so that none of you idiots send it to me.
Well, they proved you wrong, all right.
They did.
And that's a good thing, you know. We definitely want that. So now that you had your preseason pick, and like you said, you can go back, and now that you watch this team through these first 6 weeks, 7 weeks total, where do you think they can finish at?
I think this team, the way that they are right now, and I think, again, and why we do preseason and in-season predictions, because you also can't, making a prediction preseason, I was predicting that with Notre Dame having their quarterback. I was predicting that with NC State having their quarterback. Mm-hmm. So,
but that's the beauty of football. You never know. We know the feeling of not having our quarterback or some key player that we're counting on. So, yeah.
And I would say, looking at the rest of this season, I think that Syracuse can arguably get 3 more at least. I think they could be a 9-win team.
Yeah, easy. Yeah.
I do. And Amari Palmer, a.k.a. Odyssey Jones, shout out to Syracuse Orange offensive line alum and current wrestler, and very proud of him. In the WWE NXT, Amari Palmer, a.k.a. Odyssey Jones, he had him at winning like 11 games. Mm-hmm. And Nate had him up there at I think at least 8, if not 9. So my overall thought, and like I said, preseason-wise, you make your predictions, but you're predicting that with a new offensive coordinator, a new special teams coordinator. Mm-hmm. You're predicting what you don't see. And that's why I always think it's good to go a few games in and say, now what do you see? And I do that in the NFL. I'll do my NFL just so I think it's going to win the division. But now looking at things, I think, the Bills are obviously in good shape, but I think the Jets could be a playoff team. I picked the Jets to win this week against Green Bay. At the beginning of the season, I wouldn't have done that. Mm-hmm. So, I think it all comes down to, basically what it comes down to is, of the God knows how many predictions I've gotten correct, quiet.
Right.
But it's like, when I get 12 right in a row, I hear nothing. Except for from family and friends and people that actually matter in my life. And then the 2 that you get wrong, that's when all the trolls come out.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. They'll remind you quickly. But that what makes it even kind of, you speak on it too about the rankings, and it's kind of really silly to kind of rank teams in the early part of the season.
Yeah.
Because one, you haven't played any games. Yeah, and each season is a different season. Every team is not going to be the same. Somebody's losing a key starter here or there on their offense, or maybe on the defense side of the ball. And you need to play a couple of games and kind of see how those teams are executing before you can say, oh yeah, this team. And it matters who they're playing. I know you talk about that a lot. So we could even look at the rankings now and just say, oh, this team is okay at that. But preseason, you already had them ranked so high, they don't have any other choice but to kind of bubble up as other people fall out with losses and stuff.
Yeah.
So.
And there's teams that you rank really high in preseason that no matter how far they fall, they don't fall out of the top 25.
Exactly. Some might not even fall out the top 10.
Yeah, And I mean, I think, and I talk about the ridiculousness, and we'll get into this shortly here, but, Penn State was a top 10 team for no reason. And they dropped 6 spots, getting blown out by Michigan, and they dropped to 16. So they're just below Syracuse, who had to fight like hell to get in. Mm-hmm. Penn State didn't have to do anything. They were in the preseason ranking. They were respected. They were, that team because they're in the Big Ten and because of their history. And again, I tell people this all the time. If it's based on history, then Notre Dame, Penn State, and Syracuse should all be ranked in the top 10 every single year.
Yeah.
So it's supposed to be about year to year. That's what we're supposed to do. And there's all these different rules that go on this. But no, I think, to get back to your question, I think I had Syracuse at 5-7, an outside shot at 6-6, because, looking at some of these games, you didn't really know what you're going to get with Purdue. NC State's a really tough out. Clemson's on the road. Notre Dame is a game that, the only other time Syracuse played Notre Dame in recent history was at MetLife. And that was a really ugly game for both sides. And, Notre Dame here, I'm not sold on them, as many of you know. And I thought, hey, this could potentially go either way. But Notre Dame also carries that fire, and there is that history with Syracuse. At Pitt is a tough game. And at Wake Forest, another tough team. In Florida State, I like Mike Norvell, and I've been singing his praises for a long time because I've known him for a long time. And, for more than half a decade now. And so I think, when you look at the grand scheme of things, I can literally look at this preseason and say to myself that I thought that it made sense to say 5-7 to 6-6 because, Louisville is a tough team for Syracuse to play. Like I said, with Purdue, you don't know, and they came into the season playing Penn State tough. Virginia's got Brennan Armstrong. NC State had Devin Leary. Then you have your Clemsons, your Notre Dames. Clemson on the road, Pittsburgh on the road, as I said, Wake on the road, Boston College on the road, and Florida State being another tough game. So I think that it's easy. People could have said 2, 3, 4 wins this season. I think, everybody right now is going to say 12-0. Not everybody, but, there's a lot of bandwagon jumpers that are going to jump on it. And I had somebody say to me, oh, you good with Dino now? Y'all good? And I was like, I've been good with Dino since he even coached a single game here.
Right.
It's this thing called respect and this thing called doing your job, and it's this thing called constructively criticizing where I can have opinions and thoughts, but I still respect the people behind them because I want them to respect me. And I always talk to people like I would want them to speak back to me. And if I don't, I check myself. So, I think what Dino knows from the moment I met him, I shook his hand and he said, he was like, I talked to somebody before in the media and he said, Coach, I don't give a damn if you win or lose. I'm going to cover the team no matter what. And I looked at Dino and I go, well, that I'm going to cover the team whether you win or lose, but I want you to win. And he looked at me. He goes, oh, I know. He goes, don't get it twisted. And he shook my hand. He goes, I know exactly who you are. And that was the first time we really talked. So, and that was over 7 years ago. So I would tell you that have I constructively criticized some things with the team? Absolutely. And have I seen some of those things change? I have. I did see that Dino went out to recruit a local game. That means a lot to me. They're running the ball the last couple of years, and that's meant a lot to me. And, reaching back out to the fans and trying to do some things, those were big pieces of what I thought would be helpful. Also finding the right coordinators and trying to keep your staff together. So I think if you went back in history and looked at anything that I've said, it's all been to constructively help this team. And anybody with a brain larger than the size of a peanut would get it. And if you don't get it, well, you're probably the people that are still complaining that your team is 6-0. And what it really is you hate your wife and you probably should get a divorce. So, beyond that, I don't know what to tell these people, just like the people that complained that the dome was finally full. But before the show, Isaac and I were talking about it, and there were people that were complaining about that they couldn't drink their beer, they had to sit sideways, there wasn't enough room. So those are also the same people that moan when you leave too.
Yeah, and like you said, coming into a year, there's a lot of factors that go into your prediction and there's still some interesting.
The year that people predicted Tommy DeVito after the 10-3 season with Dungy, look at all those predictions, and I remember sitting there going, I'm not as high as you guys are.
Right.
I'm not seeing 10.
Success though always make.
Yeah, I said there's going to be an adjustment.
And you just brought the key thing that I was getting ready to say was because there's still some teams on this ahead of the schedule that Pittsburgh, you lose a Kenny Pickett and you never know how they're going to play out. They still doing okay, but when it's time to play them face to face, we might can be doing something a little different. But then that's the key thing. Even with the next game with Clemson, Tony Elliott goes to Virginia, Brent Venables goes to Oklahoma. So in my mind, I'm looking at the schedule and I'm like, okay, I want to see the next coordinator step up.
Yeah.
It's a little different when you got to be the
Which
man.
you can't know until you see them coach against NC
Exactly.
State and Florida State
Exactly.
and the games that can trip them up.
Exactly. And you know what? The seat is a little hotter when it's your time. You can sit back behind somebody and say, oh, yeah, I would have done it this way or I would have done it that way. And, you never know until it's your time to make that call. And like you say, you give Dino kind of the credit, coming in this season saying, okay, yeah, we need to do some different things on offense.
Yeah.
And having that opportunity to get Coach Beck and Coach Anai to come to Syracuse and doing what they're doing so far. But, what changes always makes the challenge a little bit different. It's the good programs that try to keep the coordinators together as long as you. And I don't think coaches mind that a guy get promoted to head coach. You kind of probably feel good for your colleague to say, okay, yeah, it's not, you take the ball and run with it.
Right.
But you know what? It's kind of different, like I said, when it's your time to make those calls.
Yeah.
And you know what? We'll find out with the rest of the schedule to see, you know what? Syracuse had some stability. They brought in some guys that have been around the league. Let's see what they can do and how well, you game plan against an opponent.
Yeah, so, I think the reality is this Syracuse team is doing better than most people thought. Mm-hmm. And it's a beautiful thing. And I think the best thing about all of this is the things that y'all don't even get to see, which is after the game, Isaac and I talking with Mike Howell and talking with Isaiah Johnson and talking with Garrett Schrader and Oronde Gadsden the second and getting to talk to Dino and be that first question. Because I never know what he's going to get in the room, and I expect people, unfortunately, to be negative in the media, and they were, and it's so stupid. If I was Dino, I would have just shook my head and been like, we're 6-0, we're undefeated, we're bowl bound, and y'all are bitching about something. I can't find a better word than bitching. So,
right.
And I just remember sitting there, and I felt the same way he did when he's like, I'm going to go back and, I'm going to check that and I just so happened to have my camera out and have my lens zoomed all the way in, and I saw the NC State defensive lineman move and get down and literally kneel down on the ground. I saw it. I saw what Schrader saw.
Right.
And and like Dino said, that he's going to go back and check out some things and spots of the ball and different things that I'm sure he'll be sending in and getting some thoughts on from the ACC coordinator of officiating, who's a friend of mine, and I'm excited to see what he gets back from that. I'm happy that those calls didn't cost the game, because when you can win a game and then go back and say, I have a problem with these 3 calls or these 5 calls or this 1 call, that's fine. My problem comes when that's a game-changing call, because an official should never change the game. There should never be 3 teams on the field, one being the officiating crew. And so I think there was some not great calls at times in this game, but Syracuse understood that you can't rely on officiating to save you, and they won the game by 15 without the officials. So that was a good thing. But yeah, I think getting back to predictions and all that, and what we got to do after the game, these guys know that I love them. And they know that my predictions come from my work and my head and being impartial, but in my heart, I said it at the beginning of the season. I said, I hope you guys prove me wrong. I said that when we were at Hooters Week down in Florida with Nate Trout and all that. I said, I hope you prove me wrong. And I'm happy that you guys did. I'm happy that, Isaac and I have somewhere to go in December when it's cold. And I hope it's south. I hope it's in January. And, I'm so proud of this team. And the beauty of it all is when you make a prediction of a 5-7 or a 6-6, they're over delivering on what I thought, and it's so much better than under delivering on the seasons where I said 8-4 and they go 5-7 or 4-8. So I think the greatest thing about predictions in my world is I've gotten a lot of them right, and God and I know that. And I think in my world of when I get predictions wrong, I really don't care what people think, because I know why I said it. And I'm still waiting for every media outlet to talk to me about the 2016 Final Four. And that was the year where even Jim Boeheim thought it was nuts that somebody would pick Syracuse. He didn't know it was me.
Right.
It was like anonymous at the time. But and then I love how the newspaper wrote a story and said mystery man reveals himself. I put it on my free website and promoted that it was there. So I would think a mystery man probably wouldn't have told everybody where to look. But, you know,
sometimes that's the best thing you do. Tell them.
yeah, tell them where it is. But yeah, I think this team has the opportunity to win 9 games in the regular season here. I'm excited. I think we'll get into some stuff here, but this Clemson game, I feel good about. I feel good about the Notre Dame game. I feel better about the Pittsburgh game. I honestly, the rest of the games this season, I feel good, and nobody would have known that until you saw it. I don't think Dino saw 6-0.
Right.
You know, and I think that when you get there, you adjust and you focus. And one of the greatest things that was said after the game was from quarterback Garrett Trader, who is constantly, you know, and by the way, if you want to talk about anybody predicting Garrett Trader being wrong and jumping on the bandwagon, oh my gosh, there's so many people. But, you know, I don't know how many people in the media said he could throw the ball, but this hand was up. So, and Garrett, you know, you've always gotten nice words from me. But, yeah, I like Garrett a lot. I like his hat a lot, too.
Yeah, that was a nice hat.
So, but yeah, no, watching the game with Garrett, after the game, he said something amazing. Because you have a 24-hour rule to either, like, deal with the loss or be excited with the win and celebrate. And he said, I'm probably going to take 12 hours on this one instead of 24 and get ready for Clemson. And I just thought that was such a boss statement. And I love that, where he's like, I'm going to give myself half the time to celebrate because I got a big task to get ready for. I thought that was really cool.
I mean, they passed their first test. You know, that's what it really, enjoy the process. Let's go to our next goal. You know, on to the next one. You know, don't settle for, hey, yeah, we made it to the bowl. We can go out and party and have a good time. No, it's time to get serious. And that shows you the maturity of the team. I'm pretty sure Michael would say the same thing on the defensive side. You know what? It's not time to start patting ourselves on the back. Yeah. It's time to get back into the lab and getting back to work. And like you said, I'm looking at the schedule.
What do you say?
The only team that I really say that you kind of got to be careful with is Florida State because of the running quarterback.
Yeah.
But everybody else, you know, I mean, defensively, I'm proud of what they did against NC State because I knew with losing Devin that they had to rely on the run. And I was like, oh, man, will the defense get worn out? And Dino even said it in the press conference, like, somebody asked a question about, you know, you came out, you scored on the first possession, and it took however many minutes between the first score and the next score. And Dino was like, did you watch the game? Yeah. It was body blow, body blow, body blow. And then what he's saying, they was forcibly trying to run against this defense, and the defense didn't give up. And that was my worry, too. Like, I know Dave Dorn, he's not going to, okay, if we got to be one-dimensional and do it, whether it's through the Wildcat or whatever it is, we're going to just do what we got to do. And that was the game plan, but all credit to, you know, Kevon Dart and all those guys. A name you probably didn't even, you know, the guy earned his scholarship, but you constantly had the PA announcer, Darton's on the stop, Darton's on the stop.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
When I interviewed him, people were like, well, Dan isn't, first thing I got, Dan isn't here a little bit undersized. I'm like, man, just shut up and watch football.
Yeah, and you know who you remind me of when you just said that? I was sitting in the press box looking at it, I was like, I don't know, I can't remember the kid's name, but Wake Forest had an undersized defensive tackle like maybe 5 years ago. And that was kind of the talk. Ngata. It was something with an N. It was weird. But that's who he kind of reminds me of, the defensive tackle from Wake Forest.
It was like Mackie McPherson when they said he was too short to play offensive line in Division I. And behind Mackie McPherson, in 3 out of 4 years, there was a 1,000-yard back.
Yeah, exactly. So you just, it doesn't, size is nice, and it's not everything in line play, you know, leverage, all that good stuff. You know,
what do they say? It's not always size, it's how you use it.
Yeah, well, there's some truth to that too. Yeah, exactly. So,
and what do they say about people that buy Hummers? They ain't got no size.
Compensating for something. But so that was my fear. Like, you know, will they wear the defense down? And no, defense stood tall. And like I say, you look at the rest of the schedule, and then we've had experience. We played against Malik Cunningham, so we know what a running quarterback can do.
Yeah.
They played against
and made Malik Cunningham look so unlike Malik Cunningham.
Right.
More than anybody else.
Right. So Jordan Travis, he's got the skill. I watched that game the night against Clemson, and there was some plays where it was like Houdini, like how he got out of a rundowns. But
remember last year, Syracuse lost that game to Florida State in Tallahassee, 33-30, because Marlo Wax had a blown tackle. There was two blown tackles, and his was one of them where he grabbed Jordan and tried to spin him around and thought that he had gotten him out, and Jordan stayed with it. So, like, that could have honestly been overtime, right? So people have to remember, Syracuse last year in Tallahassee lost by 3 in that string of games where they lost 3 straight ACC games by 3 points. And that game itself, Syracuse was doing really well, and I don't bring up Marlo in a negative way. I love Marlo Wax Jr., and you know that. But that play, it was one of those, like, he thought he had him and then turned around and realized he didn't. And then the field goal ends up getting set up from, like, 2 of those, plays where they keep it going and whatnot. And really from his big run. But outside of that, we would have saw overtime in Tallahassee. So I think that people really need to understand that, yes, as I've told you, here's one of my predictions I got right. So, but like, yeah.
But, give yourself a little check mark, because that's what you're doing.
Ching, ching. Like, where's that? Or was it?
Oh, no.
But
we're in a little trouble with that.
My mind wanted to go so many places just now. But
stay focused.
But then I said that Florida State under Mike Norvell would be trending upward, and they were going to be a force again. And I don't stand corrected on that, and I won't be, because I had him at Memphis for 4 years, and anywhere Mike Norvell goes, I'm going to be looking forward to that team trending upward. And so I think Syracuse needs to be ready for that, because the coaches, and when you look at this too, I mean, of the 6 games they have here in the second half of their season, I respect all these coaches. The ones I've gotten to spend a lot of time with, that I mean, really circling these: Dabo Swinney at Clemson, Pat Narduzzi at Pitt, Mike Norvell at Florida State, Dave Clawson at Wake Forest. I mean, and then Notre Dame, obviously you're transitioning. You have a new head coach at Boston College. You have Jeff there, Jeff Hafley, and he's done a good job in these first couple seasons to try and establish Boston College to be multiple offensively. So, I mean, really, there's a lot of talent here. But, I mean, when you look at these coaches, you're looking at Mike Norvell, who sent a ton of guys to the NFL. You're looking at Dave Clawson's, gotten really, really deep into the ACC and risen to the top of being only behind Clemson. And then you got Pitt, who's, been in 2 championship games in the ACC, just won one. And then you have Clemson, who wins national championships under Dabo Swinney. So you got to remember, beyond all the players that are going to be on the field, these coaches are friggin' geniuses, and they're masterminds, and they're just really incredible leaders of men. And I think that, people need to really understand that and get the fact that, as Dino says, you're playing chess, not checkers. And of these next 6 games, there's a lot of people that play really good chess. And I'm looking at the Norvells and the Narduzzis and that and Clawson, but I can tell you without doubt that next to Nick Saban, nobody plays chess better than Dabo Swinney.
Right. And you know what? It's going to be, as the team says, it's going to be a great challenge for those guys to go against those opponents. And you know what? At the end of the day, we're going to see what they can do. Michael said, if you don't respect us now, you're going to have to come play us.
Yeah.
So what? Let's see what they do, and it's always different. Like we laid off, so many different factors that go into putting together a good program, and a lot of these guys, like you said, not only good head coaches that have been around the league for a while that done it. You know what? They built programs though wherever they came from. And that's what they kind of main thing that they hang their hat on is program builders, and they get the players to believe in their systems and things like that. So. You know what? It's going to be a challenge, but, I like what Dino's done so far with this group here this year, and they're believing into the La Familia Ohana.
Yeah.
And they believe in, and that's what we've said that even when we watched Dungy, media predictions is one thing, and you get in the room with those guys, and they're like, "Well, we believed in ourselves. No
Yeah.
matter who, if nobody else did, we believed in ourselves." And that's the
Yeah.
same kind of feeling you get with this team now. That you know what, they trust the process, they believe in it, and they're going to continue to do what they got to do.
Yeah. And this team, Syracuse 6-0, one of 9 teams left in the country that are still undefeated. That's it in of over 130 Division 1A FBS teams. The only undefeated teams left in the nation at this time: Georgia 7-0, Ohio State 6-0, Tennessee 6-0, Michigan 7-0, Clemson 7-0, Ole Miss 7-0, TCU 6-0, UCLA 6-0, and Syracuse at 6-0, and that's it. And the only thing different between all of these undefeated teams is that 8 of the 9 undefeated teams left in Division 1A FBS are ranked in the nation's top 10. The only undefeated team to not be ranked in the top 10 is Syracuse, which is a level of disrespect because Michigan has done nothing. And, you look at some of these. Alabama's been tested. Tennessee's been tested. Ohio State's done nothing. Michigan's done nothing. Georgia's been tested. Ole Miss has been tested. TCU has been tested, but looking at all of this and you say one of these things is not like the other, when there's 9 teams left in the nation that are undefeated and only one of those 9 teams is not in the nation's top 10, tells you something. I think everybody with 1 loss or 2 or more should be behind all of the top 10 teams. And how do you argue that Syracuse doesn't deserve to be in the top 10 when you have Michigan and Ohio State playing a bunch of unranked teams, and they're not only in the top 10, they're in the top 4? So it's just strange to me, and we'll look at the rankings after this fast break, but it's strange to me how you have 9 teams left unranked, and 8 of those 9 teams are in the top 10. Syracuse the only one that's not.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. At least give us a little respect, put us in 10th place if you had to do anything, because it's kind of set up to, even though Alabama lost, and I get it, they've got the respect too, but it's already. You even heard Nick Saban said, if we just win the West, we get back into the SEC title game, and then we could play ourselves right back into it. So, you know what? Some of these other teams that I don't know who they thought they were scheduling, but they got the L already in the loss column. So, you know what? Syracuse should be respected a little bit more for what they've done. Nobody expected Syracuse to be here, and that's a great story, because I was like, if Syracuse was in the SEC, we would definitely be in the top 10, no doubt about it.
And Syracuse is 14th in the AP poll and the coaches poll as they go into their 7th game of the season here. And Utah is 1 spot behind them at 15, and Utah has 2 losses. So, you just look at the juxtaposition of an undefeated 6-0 Syracuse team ranked 14th and a Utah team 5-2 ranked 15th, which is disrespectful. And, coming from the WAC-12, where Oregon and Utah beat up on each other, but outside of UCLA playing good this year, there's really nobody, and USC doing some things, there's really nobody that comes out of that. And, we know that Oregon trips up at the end of the season, typically, and they already have a loss this season. And I'm not trying to disrespect any of these teams. I'm just looking at this and stating an obvious. USC came down 5 spots after losing, but they're still above Syracuse. Oklahoma State got beat by TCU, and they're still just outside the top 10 at number 11. So, it just says something when you have all of your undefeated teams in the top 10 except for one of them, because how can you argue that 8 out of 9 deserve to be there, but the 9th one doesn't? And, it's almost like treating Syracuse like Coastal Carolina or UCF or Cincinnati.
Right.
And it's just a ridiculous situation, but you win the games that are in front of you, and eventually they have to respect you. And speaking of respect, I want to shout out my guy Willie Fritz, who has Tulane of the American Athletic at 6-1 and ranked in the nation's top 25 at 25 in both the AP and the coaches poll. Big shout out to Tulane. As I was told when I was about to interview Willie Fritz for the first time, somebody came up to me and said to me, that man, I looked over there, he goes, Willie Fritz, he wins everywhere he goes. They said everywhere he goes, he's going to win. So we have no doubt that he's going to win in Tulane because he wins everywhere he goes. So we'll talk about the nation's top 25 after this fast break. What I really mean is Big Ten fans are going to have to deal with a few minutes of getting pissed off at me. So we'll be back right after this on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets that thing called life.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
Cafe Cabal offers same-day local delivery of our products, offering no delivery charge for Onondaga County. Shop cafecabal.com for fresh roasted coffee beans, cold brew, travel mugs, and all your essential Cafe Cabal needs. Cafe Cabal, coffee for the soul.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant. Avicoli's, located on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, has been your trusted neighbor for decades. Located just steps from Liverpool High School, we're happy to have the Liverpool Warriors on-site, on-location broadcast at Avicoli's through Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every single month, featuring student athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year from Liverpool High School. Head out to Avicoli's today on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, open Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. We'd love to see you out there. And of course, you can call them at 315-622-5100 for takeout, delivery, and catering. That's 315-622-5100. And also find them on myavicoli's.com. That's myaviccollis.com. Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
PB&J's Lunchbox, the food truck that you love finding all throughout Central and Upstate New York, now has a street-side cafe. So when you're craving their traditional favorites as well as their out-of-box amazing menu items, you can now head to 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. Located just minutes from the highway, the Thruway, Destiny USA, and Onondaga Lake Parkway, PB&J's Lunchbox Street-Side Cafe is there for you Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner all throughout the day. Get breakfast for dinner, dinner for lunch, whatever you fancy, including their award-winning grilled peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Find them at 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. PB&J's Lunchbox, where we love to know what's in your lunchbox. As a patient, what do we want? To be cared for, to be listened to, and to have someone walk us through the process on our path to victory. Victory Sports Medicine and Orthopedics does all of those things beautifully, with Dr. Mark Petropoli leading the team on 791 West Genesee Street in Skaneateles, New York, located minutes from beautiful Skaneateles Lake. Whatever your injury may be from head to toe, preventative care, rehab, physical therapy, laser therapy, and surgery are all available at Victory Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, where they care about us, they listen to us, and they understand that everyone's path to victory is a little bit different. Let them help you on yours by calling 315-685-7544 to make your appointment today. That's 315-685-7544. And find out more information at victorysportsmedicine.com. What's up, people? I'm thinking inappropriately. I'm still on some of the thoughts I had from before. What's up, everybody? Back here inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios, hanging out where sports meets that thing called life. I hope you're all having yourselves a fantastic morning this morning as we are here with you on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. And it's always a blessing, an honor, and a privilege to be here with you on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. So much appreciation to everybody out there. Big shout out to Cafe Kubal, 3501 James Street, as well as 324 West Water Street, 401 South Salina Street, all in Syracuse, New York. You also find them inside of their double-decker cafe in Manlius on 343 Fayette Street, and you'll find them on the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road at Sweetheart Corners in their drive-thru location in North Syracuse, right by the airport. And guess what? Every single one of the Cafe Kubals now has a new menu, so you can check out what that menu has for you today. And of course, if you're out of town, you can go to cafekubal.com. Inside Ma and Pa's Popcorn.com's What's Poppin'. You know, in the first part of the show, What's Poppin'. It's a Monday during football season, which means it's Tortora and Alford time. We're talking about Syracuse is versus NC State, and Syracuse with Clemson coming up on the road in Death Valley, and of course, what's going on beyond that. Facebook at WakeUpCallDT, the Twitter at CallDT, and Instagram at WakeUpCall_DT. And you're with us, tuning in live every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time on YouTube.com, Facebook.com, and MixLR.com, all /WakeUpCallDT, on Facebook.com /LiveNowDT, and on WakeUpCallDT.com's homepage, where you can click on the Articles tab, and you can read all of my football articles, including the most recent one about Syracuse becoming bowl-bound and advancing to 6-0. We've also updated the Cuse tab, which is an acronym for constant updates and special exclusives. You can go to the Cuse tab on wakeupcalldt.com, click on Syracuse Football, and that'll have the drop-down menu. It'll have the past episodes, a whole archive of Tortora and Alford. It will also have for you all my articles. It'll have the schedule for the team, the outcomes of each game, and it will have the clickable of when there is an article connected to the game. You can click right there to read the article on the schedule, or you can go to the right-hand side and see the article itself. So you can either read the article from the schedule, or you can read it from the right taskbar. So a lot of great stuff coming up. There will be a test. Isaac's going to have to repeat all this at the end of the show. So, but I did not take my top off in the press box. The only reason why I didn't is because the cruises didn't bring me sangria.
Yes.
So, but I don't know. I don't know about, they say tequila makes your clothes come up, but I don't drink tequila.
No, but sangria is pretty close.
Yeah. Sangria is a little mix of madness, but
I wanted that pineapple bad, but you know what? It wasn't worth it.
It's like when my ex used to make these Swedish fish drinks, and they taste Swedish fish vodka, and it tastes just like Swedish fish. And anything to me, see, I've never been drunk. And that's just not something I've ever wanted to do. I haven't.
Okay.
What? But I, it makes me think of Grown Ups. Where the one, who's the guy who's in Saturday Night Live? What's his name? Oh my gosh.
David Spade? No,
it's on the tip of my tongue. No, the guy that goes, say what?
Oh,
it's oh my gosh, I could picture his face, and it's on the tip of my tongue. I'll figure it out.
Yeah, it'll come to you.
It'll come to me. But, when you said that, that's what I thought of. But, so I just want to let everybody know, A, drink responsibly. B, you got to try the sangria from the Syracuse tailgate. And C, I have never been drunk. And I have to preface that because it's very important to me that I've never been, and I'm very proud that I've never been. I will tell you that the sangria from Enrique Cruz Jr., my future running mate for president and vice president, his mom, she makes them scissorp, and
you was one more cup from being your first time.
I was feeling all right, but my ex had made this Swedish fish vodka thing, and she put Swedish fish in the bottom, and I'm a child, so we were going to bed, and in our first house, and I reached into the bottom. And there was Swedish fish that had been sitting, because it takes me forever to drink a drink. And so one drink might take me like an hour. And so the drink's sitting there, and I dip my hand in right before we go to bed. She goes, "What are you doing?" I go, "I want the Swedish fish. I like candy." And so I went to eat it, and she's like, "That's going to have the most alcohol because it's been sitting and soaking for an hour." I didn't think of it that way. And I think I grabbed one of them, and then I looked at her, because I'm a child, and I was like... And I ate all 3 of the Swedish fish, and she was like... And I was like, "What? I want the candy." She goes, "You might want to eat some toast." And then she had been drunk enough times.
Right.
Probably. If drink... how do I put this? If drinking was an art, she'd be Picasso.
Well taken.
Oh man. So
you paint the perfect picture.
Yeah. Thank you. So she was like, "You probably should have some toast." And then she was messing with me, telling me I was gonna get drunk for the first time ever, and I was really pissed. And she thought she was hilarious, but I got the tables turned. Couple years later, she got drunk, and when she got drunk, she got childlike and annoying. And I tell women this all the time: I will take care of you if you have a cold. I will take care of you if you hurt your foot, whatever. Like if something happened that's beyond your control, I'm there. But if you get drunk, that's not I'm taking care of you. That's you did this to yourself. So I told her, I was like, "I'm gonna leave you here," but then I felt bad. I'm like, I can't leave her on a street corner. I don't want anybody to hurt her, take advantage of her. So I put her in the car, and my buddy was driving in the front seat, and she's in the back, and I kid you, it was like a skit. She was like, "Where are we going? And this is how she talks, so I'm not, she's like, "Where are we? You're stupid. Shut up." Nobody was talking. And she's like, "Shut up. I just want to go to Domino's. Is Domino's open? Why are you driving by Domino's?" And we were on a road with no Domino's. She's like, "Why are you driving by? Pull over. You're a dick. I hate you. Where's my food? I just want Taco Bell. My God. Are you going to hit every bump? I'm going to throw up. Are you serious right now?" So we got back to the house, got back to the apartment, and she said, "Why don't you do something nice for me?" And I made her toast, and she's sitting there like, "You're never good to me, and you're not nice to me, and you don't care about me, and you don't care that I'm sick." And I took the toast and I threw it at the wall. And she looked at me and she goes, "I can't believe." And I said, "You want to act like an animal? Eat it like an animal." And she's like, "I'm going to tell your mom." I was like, "You're going to tell my mom that my grown... you-know-what wife is drunk and yelling at me?" And I said, all you had to do was stand here and tell me." She goes, "You don't do anything for me." I was like, "I just made you toast." She goes, "Wow, congrats. And I threw the toast. So.
I guess, that's I'm pretty sure that put you to your limits there. But,
yeah, I'm gonna tell you something. So that happened in in the guest bathroom, and that guest bathroom also, like walking around the house and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I was in that room when I talked to Dave Clausen one day. Walking around the house, walked into the bathroom, and had a great conversation. So Dave Clausen and I had a great conversation there. My ex-wife and I had a conversation about how she eats off the ground when she eats toast, and she's like, "You are an animal," and I was like, "One of us is," but And I thought I could handle when someone like starts to dry heave.
No.
And in my head, I'm like, I could do it. So she's like, do you want me to go to the other bathroom or stay here? And I was like, no, babe, you're good. And I was laying in bed. I felt totally fine because I wasn't drinking like that.
Right.
I felt totally good, right? I don't even know if this was drinking or sick because I don't know how many times she was going to throw up because she was sick or drunk. I think drunk was probably higher. But it's all coming out today. Springer Live. But, bop, bop. So she was in the bathroom, and it's like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm hearing, who, and I was, my stomach was totally fine. I felt 100%. So I started off at 100%. I ended at about 12%. I had the pillow over my head. I got the pillow over my head, and I'm like, turn the TV up, and I'm like this, in the bed. I can't do it. So I don't know how many people, but I'm terrified of having a child and having them throw up on me because I think my initial response is going to go, ah!
You never know until it happens. So.
And then I got to run and catch it. But I did. I had a girl that I had dated before I had known this wonderful treasure of a Picasso. And when I had dated this other girl, she goes, "Oh, you get used to baby throw up." She's like, I was like, "Well, what does it smell like?" She goes, "It smells like curdled milk, and it's like green, but it's fine." And I was just like, So yeah, but I thought I was gonna be all right, but yeah, it's I don't know where I was going with any of this.
Well, it was the sangria that started this. So it's almost like you was a little drunk in your story, but you're all right. You get back to it. You'll get back.
So what I was saying about Syracuse is sangria is a hell of a drug, and my ex-wife was eating toast like a jerk.
There you go.
So that's where I was, but I just gotta let it out. You know what I mean? So it's like I told you, people gotta let it out. Like people right now, see, I'm happy. I'm a happy person. People right now, there's some Syracuse fans. This is a quote. This is not real, right? There's Syracuse fans and there's fanatics. Fanatics are not fans of anybody. They just hate their life. Fans are fans. Mm-hmm. They love you. They're going to be there for you no matter what. They're going to be like, Isaac, we lost, whatever. We're going to get back. Right. We're going to be all right. Fanatics are people that are miserable and they need to just take it out. They're going to take it out on the cash register at Wegmans. They're going to take it out in the mall when somebody walks by them. They're going to take it out in traffic. They're going to take it out when they're friggin' sleeping. They're going to take it out on somebody. And fanatics are that complain that Syracuse is 6-0, but we're not that good and we shouldn't be ranked and all this stuff. And I was like, they have all this anger from past seasons, and now that they're winning, they're like, ah!
Yeah, don't know what to do.
We're winning! What do I do? Because they don't know what to do. And then, when things are going well, and they're happy, and they really just don't like their spouse, and they go home, they used to be like, Syracuse lost, and I'm pissed. And their wife would leave them alone. Well, now they're like, Syracuse won. And she's like, good, now we can go to the grocery store together.
Now they get pissed off again.
Yeah. So now when they come home, she's at the door going, you ain't got no reason to take out the trash, you dick. So now it's, it's real. And I just outed you all. I'm sorry, but with all due respect, I would rather none of us have to deal with you, not even your wife. So, but that's the funny part because people would make excuses for why they were pissed, and now they can't.
No reason to be. Enjoy it. It's a new day.
Said, enjoy the win.
Exactly.
Dino, can you go back and look at the 2 times? And he was like, enjoy the game. Enjoy that we won. We're bowl eligible. Enjoy it. Go celebrate. Go have fun. So, it's just, and it's crazy to me because they won by 15 and people were like, well, what are you going to do to clean this up? And it's like, it's not even that they won by a possession. It's not that they won a people complain about Purdue was at the end. And they complain that Virginia was at the end, and to me, it's like I saw glass half full, like we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that they beat Purdue at the end and they beat Virginia at the end. It's about they had resolve, they were poised, they were focused, they believed in each other, they had faith, they came back and they won the game, which is something they haven't done in the past.
Right, and you got to be resilient, and think of the moment how the ending happened. Those I wouldn't change that for any other story that the season has happened so far. But you know what? There's always game film to watch. And no matter, I'm pretty sure they took the Wagner tape and looked at it and said, "Okay, guys, how you always said, in a win, it's the best time to critique yourself and stuff."
Look at everything you did.
Exactly. So there's always going to be game film to look at and say, "Hey, we could have did this better. We could have did that better." But the big part was enjoy it.
Yeah. Enjoy the win. Some people had to go home to husbands and wives that were like, "Give me toast. You're an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
Where's Taco Bell?" So it's just like, and the irony is, after Syracuse started the season 6-0, I went to Taco Bell. So good for you. But but it's definitely been a great start. Syracuse is 6-0. And, we look at the rest of the top 10, I should say. As I said, 9 teams are left undefeated in Division I FBS. 8 of those 9 are in the top 10.
Mm-hmm.
The only one pushed out of it is Syracuse. Why? I don't know. Why? Because Michigan's done nothing. Why? Because Ohio State's done nothing. Michigan beat a top 10 team. Well, Penn State shouldn't have been a top 10 team. So everything is relative.
Mm-hmm.
You make Michigan look like they got a good win because they beat a team that beat unranked teams and played a lot of their games at home, so it's kind of ridiculous. But Georgia, we look at Georgia, and Georgia's had a test, and looking at Georgia, they played Oregon when Oregon was 11th in the country, and they blew them out, and outside of that, has Georgia really been tested? No, but they are number 1 in the country. They are going to get tested against Tennessee. Is going to get a crack. Put it like this: Tennessee got a crack at Alabama. I picked Tennessee to win over Alabama. Tennessee's got a crack at Georgia. So if Tennessee beats Georgia after beating Alabama, folks, Tennessee will be the number 1 ranked team in the nation.
Yeah, without a doubt.
But that will actually be rightly so.
Mm-hmm.
Ohio State, as we've discussed before, and please correct me if I'm wrong, which I know in this case I am not, Notre Dame was ranked in the preseason rankings, and they took them down. Arkansas, who's not ranked anymore. Arkansas State, Toledo, Wisconsin, Rutgers, first 5 games at home, beat them all, and beat Michigan State on the road. That is Ohio State. Ohio State will play unranked Iowa, at ranked Penn State, at unranked Northwestern, home against unranked Indiana, at unranked Maryland, and they'll play Michigan, who's been ranked really high at the end of the season. And what has Michigan done to be 7-0 and 4th in the country? Well, as we talked to you about last week, they've beaten all unranked teams except for Penn State, who is ranked way too high. So that's where you are right now. Think about it. If Syracuse was Penn State, Syracuse would be in the top 4 right now because they would have been preseason ranked high, and they would have beaten. See, the thing is, if Penn State beats Wagner, they stay in the top 10. And so I just want people to understand that. Now, some of the other teams here that we haven't talked about, Clemson we have gotten to a little bit. Clemson's had some tests here. Clemson got tested by Florida State, who they were blowing out and came back and only defeated them by 6, 34-28 in Tallahassee. And NC State, a ranked team, they beat Wake Forest in extra time 51-45. And so you got another ranked team there. So Clemson has been tested by some good teams, tested by NC State when they had Devin Leary, and tested by Sam Hartman and Wake Forest. Then you look at Fly Slamma Jamma Bama, and Alabama played Arkansas when Arkansas was ranked, played a Texas A&M team that's not gotten a lot of respect here this year and hasn't really been ranked that much, and they barely beat them at home in Alabama, 24-20. And then you look at Ole Miss in the nation's top 25, who's unranked, and Ole Miss defeated Troy at home, Central Arkansas at home, at Georgia Tech 42-0, Tulsa at home, Kentucky, who was ranked in the nation's top 10-7 at the time, beat them 22-19. Then they beat unranked at Vanderbilt and beat Auburn. And even though Auburn's unranked, they've gotten some respect here being the SEC. And the SEC, folks, has proven that they are the best conference in football in many, many years. TCU at Colorado against Tarleton, which to some people makes them think of the man who did a fantastic dance that I can also do, and that's Carlton from Fresh Prince. At SMU, they beat Oklahoma, who was ranked in the nation's top 18 at the time, beat top 19 ranked Kansas on the road, and just defeated Oklahoma State 43-40 at home. So they beat 3 ranked teams in a row. So with all due respect, TCU should be ranked higher than Michigan, in my opinion. And then you look at UCLA as we keep going through the top 10 teams ranked here. UCLA defeated unranked Bowling Green, unranked Alabama State, unranked South Alabama, unranked on the road at Colorado, defeated Washington, who was ranked in the nation's top 15, and defeated Utah. And Utah's a pain in the tush. And they've played spoiler a couple years in a row for Oregon. So there's respect there in what UCLA just did. And then you look at Oregon, which rounds out the nation's top 10 when we look at the rankings here. And in the AP, as I went down this line, they lost to Georgia 49-3 at home in that game. An awful game for Oregon. Georgia was ranked 3rd in the country. They beat Eastern Washington unranked, and then they beat BYU, who's a tough team, beat them by 21 at home when BYU was 12th in the nation. At Washington State, unranked, they won. Beat Stanford, unranked at home, and beat Arizona, unranked, on the road. They got a test against UCLA. And so, really, when you look at this, and I just gave you the backdrop, but in my opinion, Isaac, of the top 10 teams that we have, and all these teams are in the top 10, either in the AP or the coaches poll. They may be like differing a spot. Like UCLA is 10, Oregon is 9 in the coaches poll, and they're flipped in the AP poll. UCLA 9, Oregon 10. But of the top 10 teams that are ranked as of right now, the teams, in my opinion, that have been tested the most: Tennessee, Clemson, Alabama, Ole Miss, TCU, and UCLA. Not Oregon, not Georgia, not Ohio State, not Michigan, in my opinion.
Right.
And so half of this top 10, to me, has not been tested yet, which I think is grossly unfair. And so to me, the teams, TCU beating 3 ranked teams in a row, and then seeing what Ole Miss has done, and seeing Clemson, and especially Tennessee, who has a shot to be number 1 in the country, I think that when you look at this nation's top 10, some are there for good reason, and some are there because of history, because of fan base, because of boosters, because of, I don't know, backdoor deals, whatever the hell it is.
And I think some of it because of coaching pedigree, too. Because some of these teams, like you said, they just, from the start of the season, it's all about who the coach was. And we could use Miami in that example. We talked about how well somebody want Miami to be back on the scene. Yeah, you just got a new coach, but what did you do recently to earn that ranking, to come into the season so high at that rank? And you see what Miami's done right now. They're out,
Yeah.
But it does kind of frustrate you because you see, okay, yeah, your SEC team, yeah, you got this named coach who, is a little controversial on, rough around the edges sometimes, but
Yeah.
But who have you played so far to earn that ranking?
Why is TCU not ranked higher than Michigan?
Right.
Why is Clemson not ranked higher than Michigan? And I have a lot of problem and issue with who's been battle tested, because essentially what they've set up is for the SEC to have 2 teams in the college football playoff, and for the Big Ten to arguably have 2, because the college football playoff is going to push that narrative potentially of the fact that the SEC and the Big Ten are going to form their own division, and they're going to go off by themselves. So if they say, hey, it's 2-2, it makes the most sense. Look at how good these conferences are, but it's not.
Right.
I mean, in my opinion, if it started right now, if the college football playoff happened today, in this moment that we're talking here on a Monday to start off this week on October 17th, if the college football playoff happened today, I would have Tennessee, Clemson, Georgia, and maybe TCU at this point. I wouldn't have Ohio State. I wouldn't have Michigan. I wouldn't have It would either be Alabama or Georgia right now. I would have Tennessee, and then I think TCU, maybe they could give Ole Miss some hell. So I think TCU and UCLA would have a better chance for me, where I'd be talking TCU or UCLA, Tennessee, Clemson, and then Alabama or Georgia, and that would be my 4.
No, I like those 4 right now, based on who they played at this point in the season.
What have you done?
Exactly. You know what? And it's all kind of set up where it's like right now that when you look at the top 10, Georgia, Tennessee got to face each other. So somebody's going to knock somebody off that seat. Yeah, Big Ten, you really haven't done any, but you're setting it up just for Ohio State, Michigan game. Just be real about it.
You rank them this high, and they've beaten most of their teams at home, and pretty much all of them unranked. Ohio State beat a Notre Dame team that was preseason ranked 5. So that's an even different ranking because Notre Dame hadn't done anything to have earned any of that. So it's like when you start this high in the polls and you say, well, Dan, they're both undefeated. Yeah, but who did they play?
Right.
You start this high. Okay, so if you're Syracuse and you start in the polls in the top 5 and you're 6-0, then you should still stay in the top 5.
Right.
So Ohio State and Michigan haven't earned the right to get there, where Clemson, to me, why are they 5? And then Tennessee has earned the right. And with all due respect, Georgia and Alabama, they, year in and year out, have proven themselves to have earned it. But a team like TCU and a team like UCLA, who has not gotten this high at this point, TCU and UCLA are fighting to get out of the top 8 into the top 5, and they can't get up there because Ohio State and Michigan keep beating up on unranked teams. And that doesn't make sense to me.
And I was just looking at that. How does Michigan leapfrog Clemson? It doesn't make any sense here.
Michigan beat Penn State and Clemson beat Florida State. So you're going to say, well, unranked versus ranked, but Penn State was ranked 10 for no reason.
But let's go with the ranked thing. Clemson already beat NC State, and they already beat Wake Forest.
Yeah.
So
they really haven't moved off of 5.
Right, and those are the 2 people in the division for the ACC that Clemson had to take care of: NC State, Wake Forest, and you can say Florida State to maintain the division that they're in. Michigan hasn't played anybody in their division that's going to really battle test them until they get to Ohio State. So how do you even leapfrog? Yeah, Penn State, but Penn State, come on.
Well, the thing I find really funny too, and a shout out that it's not just Syracuse that's bowl eligible, but former Syracuse quarterback Tommy DeVito has aided the Fighting Illini to be bowl eligible as well, as they went 6-1. So on the same day that Syracuse became bowl eligible, former Syracuse quarterback Tommy DeVito became bowl eligible with his new team of Illinois, as they are 6-1. Their only loss for the season was by 3 points on the road at Indiana, but they've done what Michigan and Ohio State have done, which is beat unranked teams. They beat Wyoming. They beat Virginia. They beat Chattanooga all at home. They won at Wisconsin, who was ranked in the top 15 for no reason, per always. They beat Iowa at home, and they beat Minnesota at home, and Minnesota had been ranked. So you look at the Fighting Illini, and you say, okay, they're 6-1. They're bowl eligible. They're in the Big Ten, but their name is not Michigan or Ohio State. So you look at this and say Ohio State's 2, Michigan is 4, and Illinois is 18 in the AP and 20 in the coaches poll, and they're behind a 2-loss Utah team. They're behind a did-nothing Penn State team that's 5-1. They're behind Kansas State, who's 5-1, and they're barely above Kentucky, who has 2 losses this season.
Yeah, and it basically, again, who is Illinois when you come into the season, like you said.
Right.
It's like, you know what, they've proven it on the field, but yet you've got other players in your division. It's the same record, or not even better, that under the same circumstances, they haven't proved themselves yet either, but they've already been up in the top 10.
And it's also proven that because Syracuse starts off the season like they do most seasons, which is unranked in the preseason top 25, you can see how much they considered Syracuse an underdog in the AP and the coaches poll, and how they really pretty much consider Syracuse to not be that good of a team, because look at what happened. When good teams beat good teams, they don't really move too far off of each other too much, right? Alabama and Tennessee flipped spots, 3 and 6. One went up 3, Tennessee. One went down 3, Alabama. But Syracuse beats NC State. They drop 8 in the AP poll from 15 to 23. They dropped 10 spots from 13 to 23 in the coaches poll. So that makes it look like they had the biggest drop of this week in the AP poll, which was 8 spots, which Mississippi State also did. And they had the biggest drop in the coaches poll of 10 spots, which just goes to show you, in my opinion, if you're dropping 8 spots in one poll and 10 in the other, they're making it look like you lost to an unranked team. Syracuse is ranked number 18. So that still shows, even though Syracuse moves to 14, how much they're disrespected by the fact that NC State losing to them made NC State almost drop out of the coaches poll.
Right, and it's almost like, well, you didn't really beat a ranked team, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, you were just neck and neck with each other when one was 15.
And it also pushes the narrative of saying if NC State drops out of it, well, this is why Syracuse is the only undefeated team to not be in the top 10.
Right.
Because they lost to crappy NC State. And I'm saying in their words, crappy
Yeah,
NC State,
right. No, I got you.
But crappy NC State, in their words, looking at that, where they've had NC State ranked since the preseason.
Yeah, of course. Up to top 20.
So you had them in the top 20 since the preseason, and Syracuse beats them, and it looks like they lost to Troy.
Right. And then when the other people do lose those games, Penn State only dropped 6. You know what I'm saying?
To losing to a Michigan team that did nothing.
Right.
You know, and then you look at Mississippi State, who has 2 losses now, and they dropped 8 spots in the AP. And Mississippi State dropped 8 spots by losing to a ranked Kentucky team. So it's like they beat a ranked Texas A&M team who's not ranked anymore. They beat Memphis. They beat Arizona. They lost to LSU, who was unranked. And then you see them lose by 10 to Kentucky, and they're barely staying alive in the AP poll right now. And they're playing in the SEC, and they just lost to a ranked team.
What was Kentucky the week before? Because didn't Kentucky lose to South Carolina?
Yeah, Kentucky was 22 the week before in the AP, and Kentucky was 20. They were 22 in both. They were 22 in the AP and the coaches.
And I want to say it was in the top 20 the week prior to that.
And Kentucky at one point was 7.
Right. Yeah, exactly. They were in the top 10. Again, more of
Mississippi
a
State
conference thing.
Yeah.
You know?
And Mississippi State gets punished losing to Kentucky, which makes sense. So Mississippi State loses to Kentucky in the SEC, and they almost drop out of the nation's top 25. Penn State loses to Michigan, who's played nothing but unranked teams besides Penn State, and they stay within the nation's top 16.
Yeah, that makes no sense at all.
So you're saying the Big Ten is better than the SEC by doing that?
No sense.
And history shows you that the SEC is better than the Big Ten every year.
Yeah, and when it gets to bowl season, you see which conference dominates the other one in the bowl.
Oh, yeah. And when they say Ohio State, Ohio State bested Clemson. Oh, look at that. Whoa, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, okay. The first time that Ohio State played in the college football playoff, they got blown out by Clemson.
Exactly.
So, it's like you look at this thing and just see the reality of the fact that it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. At the end of the day, it's human beings. Well, Dan, human beings have error. No. These human beings, not all of them, but some of them that are voting in the media and in the coaches' polls, they have agendas. There's a difference between what you say is like, this is opinion. No. Opinion and agenda are very different, and your agenda can affect your opinion. So
yeah, because if it wasn't an agenda, you have Cincinnati teams of the past being up there, UCF's teams being up there, Coastal Carolina teams that would have been up there, Syracuse this team, be up there. So yeah, it definitely is an agenda.
Yeah, and so you see what it looks like here, and for goodness sakes, Texas had dropped out of the poll. They have 2 losses, and they're in the nation's top 20 right now. Above Cincinnati, who has 1 loss, above North Carolina, who has 1 loss, above Tulane, who has 1 loss, because it's Texas. It has nothing to do with anything other than the fact that it's Texas. So I think if you have 2 or 3 losses, you don't have any business being here. There was a season in recent history where teams with 3 losses were above like 6 teams in the top 25.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there was SEC teams too.
Yeah, if it's the SEC or the Big Ten, they'll argue it. But if it's the ACC, and more so the Pac-12 or the Big 12, they'll drop it. If it's the American, they won't think about it. If it's the Sun Belt, Coastal Carolina loses to Appalachian State, you'll never be ranked the rest of the season. So,
right, and now, not that you got to look it up, I was trying to think of that whole Wake Forest team last year think they got maybe to the top 10, and then when they lost, it was like 19 or something like that. It's like so.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like, yeah, all Wake Forest had to do was lose one time.
Right, and then it's just like blow them off the map.
Yeah, because you look at Wake Forest, we go back here. Now, in the final rankings last year, in the AP and the coaches poll, Wake finished 15 and 14 in the AP and coaches respectively. But if we go back to the preseason poll of last year in 2021, Wake Forest started off unranked in both polls. So they were nowhere. And remember North Carolina, how high they were. And North Carolina didn't have a good year. And then Wake Forest, I'll skip ahead here a few weeks. Wake Forest got in. They were at like 19 and 20, so they were coming up 5. So Wake Forest in week 5 of last season, Wake Forest had just squeaked. They were at the bottom of the top 25. In week 6, they had gotten into the top 20. In week 7 last year for Wake Forest,
Kind of sound like somebody we know.
yeah, like Syracuse.
Yeah.
And then so Wake in week 7 last year went up to 16 in week 7, went up 3 spots and 4 spots in the coaches poll to 16 in both. Sounds a lot like Syracuse, where Syracuse is 14 right now, coming into week 8. And so looking at Wake Forest was able to, and then they went up 1 to 15. They stayed at 16 despite being undefeated. So in week 8, they didn't even move in the AP poll. They stayed in the same spot. In week 9, Wake moved up 3 to 13 last year and up 2 to 13 when they were still undefeated at 7-0. They were in week 8 only 13th. Sounds a lot like Syracuse. And as Isaac said, and I second that. In week 10, we saw Wake go to number 9, and they were number 9 here. They went up to number 9 and then number 10. AP number 9, coaches poll number 10 when they were 8-0. So in week 10, they finally cracked the top 10. And then in week 11, Wake dropped down to 12 and 13 respectively. And then in week 12, we saw Wake Forest in the college football playoff ranking was 10th. They were 13th in the AP. And in the coaches poll, they were 12th. And at that time, all Wake had done was lose one game. They were 9-1 at that time, and they barely had them in the top 10. And when they were 9-1 at that time, barely in the top 10, I want to look back at this and tell you who they lost to last year in 2021. So toward the end of the season, barely making the top 10 at number 10. The loss that they had was at North Carolina, 58-55, a team that had come in ranked extremely high when Wake Forest wasn't ranked. So in the preseason, the coaches and the media said North Carolina's great, Wake Forest sucks. Then Wake loses to the team that they thought was great, and they punish them. And Wake comes out 9-1 at that time. And keep in mind that they, had won all their games up to that point, and then they lost to Clemson on November 20th, and then lost to Pittsburgh in the ACC championship game. But there was no way in hell that they were going to let them in. And you look at their losses, they lost to Clemson by 21 on the road. North Carolina, they lost by 3. And so, and then they blew out Rutgers in the Gator Bowl. So by 28, and that is Greg Schiano's Gators. So it's just funny to speak to your point that Wake Forest wasn't in the rankings like Syracuse, fought to get in, and then was undefeated at 9-0, and they were
Just
still
barely
they were
getting the
still
top
waiting
10,
to get in the top 10. So,
Right.
Yeah, it's crazy.
No. And you said the key word earlier, agenda.
Yeah.
I was very interested in watching that team last year to see how far they could climb with a
They
Clemson
were never going
team.
to let them in.
Yeah, with a Clemson
Too
team
small
struggling.
of a school, not a football school. God forbid, a good education school.
Oh, what's that?
Yeah. Like Dan there, they said they talk good. So like it's just, they don't speak well, they talk good. Wake Forest is not an easy school to get into.
No, it's definitely not.
And it's funny, Wake Forest isn't an easy school to get into, and being at Wake Forest isn't easy to get in the top 25.
Nah, how ironic,
And the funny thing is, I heard somebody, my intern a couple years ago at the ACC kickoff, You got 4 teams there from the state of North Carolina. And he told me, he goes, I just heard something crazy. And I said, what? He said, one of the guys was talking to their cameraman. And he said, oh, this is the North, you got to get all North Carolina teams. You got to get a picture of all of them. It's a big day. He goes, make sure to get North Carolina, Duke, and NC State. And the guy said, what about Wake Forest? And he goes, well, if you have time.
Wow.
And I was just like, what? Like, and that's in North Carolina.
Yeah, disrespect.
And I say it all the time. I say I respect Wake Forest more than the state of North Carolina.
Yeah. It's sad, but it's true. You know what I'm saying?
So we will take a step aside for a fast break. We'll get into Syracuse by the numbers. Coming off of the NC State game, we'll head into the Clemson game as well. Coming up in this edition of Tortora and Alford, exclusive to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. We'll be back right after this, where sports meets life. Starting off my birthday week with a Syracuse victory on Saturday, my birthday, this Friday, October 21st, and Isaac and I hanging out with you here on Monday, October 17th. We'll be back right after this fast break on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life. In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville Bees. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you.
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
I'm George Townsend of Honda City with some good advice when buying a new car. The true cost of owning a new car is determined by the appraised value when you trade it. No vehicle appraises higher than a Honda. Next, look for low APRs and deep discounts. You also want low maintenance costs and great fuel economy. That's why my advice to you is to buy a new Honda. Looking pre-owned, visit our Honda Certified Used Car Center. Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard, Liverpool, or HondaCity-CNY.com.
It would be a pity if you don't shop at Honda City.
Our corporate purpose at Chick-fil-A is to glorify God by being faithful stewards of all that's entrusted to us and to positively influence all those who come in contact with Chick-fil-A. And what became increasingly clear from our success in Cicero is that people love Chick-fil-A. And also I think we recognized that, we had a great opportunity to grow the brand and grow our platform. I felt incredibly grateful when I was selected to be a Chick-fil-A operator. I think what it's meant for me, what I've come to realize on a very deep level is that this is a calling for me. It's not a career. It's not a job. The Lord called me to be a Chick-fil-A operator and to use these restaurants to glorify Him and to positively influence other people. I'm blessed. I'm very blessed.
Head to Chick-fil-A Clay on 3974 State Route 31 in Liverpool, New York.
Cafe Cabal offers same-day local delivery of our products, offering no delivery charge for Onondaga County. Shop cafecabal.com for fresh roasted coffee beans, cold brew, travel mugs, and all your essential Cafe Cabal needs. Cafe Cabal, coffee for the soul.
Hi, this is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the whole frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942 and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating. Find them at 201 Old 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. Open Monday through Saturday in-store and all the time online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond. You can order all throughout the country at maandpaspopcorn.com. And remember to get your tins, which have in-store half-price refills forever. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, available to you for fundraising and all of your events by calling 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you?
Witty Wicks Candles and Gift Shop, Township 5, Camillus, where you will find handcrafted all-natural soy wax candles over 60 cents to freshen up your home. We carry a wide range of locally made items, salsa Cuse, Syracuse Salt, and Chocolate Pizza Company, to name a few. Let our knowledgeable staff help choose unique gifts and keepsakes for any occasion. Gifts for family and friends, and maybe a little something for yourself. Witty Wicks Candles and Gift Shop, Township 5, Camillus.
And welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, inside of Cafe Cabal Studios, hanging out with you where sports meets that thing called life, and it's Bring Your Daughter to Work Day. So if you hear Lily in the background, she is showing off for Uncle Isaac. So it is Tortora and Alford hanging out with you where sports meets life, and of course Tortora and Alford throughout football season, bringing you our analysis with Isaac Alford and myself, Dan Tortora, inside of these Cafe Cabal Studios on 3501 James Street, 324 West Water Street, and 401 South Salina Street, all in Syracuse, New York. Inside of their double-decker cafe on 343 Fayette Street in Manlius, New York, and on the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road at Sweetheart Corners in their drive-through location. So make sure you head out there in North Syracuse. And for those of you out of town, you can go to cafecubal.com. You know, the studio is decked out in a lot of things here at the Cafe Cabal Studios, including these beautiful candles from Witty Wicks. We have, and perfect for all the fans out there, I should give one of these away. I feel like I should give one of these away.
Very nice scent.
Yes. We got, this is Namaste at Home. It's a very calming smell. And so these, as you can see, the orange and blue wrapping here, wrapped by the incredible team, including owner Aubrey. And so you can see here that I should give one of these away. We have done a gift basket of this before. Spring, summer, autumn, and winter in Cuse. 4 different candles here that were all scented, created in-house locally by Witty Wicks, and every single one of them has to do with Syracuse and the scents of our seasons, and every single one of them smells different. So it's not just a Cuse candle, it's a Cuse candle for each one of the 4 seasons. So I might have to give one of these away, but just so you know, Witty Wicks, you can go to 190 Township Boulevard in Camillus, New York, right in front of Movie Tavern, and go to Witty Wicks 7 days a week. And of course, you can also head to wittywicks.com. I have the candles lit in the studio all the time. and they actually help my allergies. And I asked Aubrey, I said, why are these candles that already smell good, that I already love, I was like, why are they helping my allergies? And she goes, they are? And I said, yeah. And she goes, well, they're made by all natural ingredients, so maybe that's why it's helping you out. So definitely appreciate it. We got the 315 sign over Isaac's back here. We got the Cuse Home Sweet Home, the 315 pillow with the new dome in it, with the, you can see that top rail here. So you can get all these pillows while supplies last. The 315, you can get the sense of Syracuse, and there's a lot of great things coming up here at Witty Wicks. So I would get your towel out to Witty Wicks on 190 Township Boulevard in Camillus, New York. And you can see I just got this Namaste at Home candle. It's almost completely out because Papa likes his candles. I light them during every broadcast, and they just smell up the my home. Got them in the bedroom, got them here in the studio, got them in the office, so they're all over the place. Witty Wicks, thank you for all you do and what you do locally. So much appreciation here. So with that being said, we're going to take a look at Syracuse by the numbers. And numbers-wise for the Orange right now, statistically, as we take a look at some of these stats here for the Syracuse Orange, points per game, Syracuse has 36, and they're allowing 13.17. Folks, back in the day when Brian Ward, and this is not a witch hunt, back in the day when
These are facts.
Yeah. Back in the day when Brian Ward was the defensive coordinator for Syracuse, and I called him the best offensive coordinator for everyone that played Syracuse, he gave up 31 to 38 points a game. So Syracuse is now scoring what they used to give up, which is in between that 31 to 38, scoring 36 a game, and they're allowing what they used to score. Syracuse has literally flipped the script by having Coach Anai as offensive coordinator and Tony White as defensive coordinator. When you have a coordinator like Tony White and your defensive personnel and your coaching staff are holding your opponents to 13.17 points a game, under 2 touchdowns a game, more often than not, your offense doesn't have to do that much to win. They got to do enough. So when you're scoring almost 40 and you're allowing only 13 a game, huge. And I love what the offense is doing, but even more so, defense wins championships, and Syracuse holding their opponents to under 2 touchdowns per game on average is a beautiful thing, especially doing it to NC State 24-9. So scoring for almost 40 is great, but you know, Isaac, you and I have known football long enough to know that 13 points a game giving up those are some championship numbers.
Damn near impossible. And I kind of chuckle that even with our predictions going into the game, we was talking about, and I told you this probably at halftime, but we came in the game, I was like, there might be 38-24, and then I talked to somebody in the media, in the press room, and then I was asked the same question, what we thought, and I was sitting there thinking, what was I thinking? Coming in this game, Syracuse has a tough defense. NC State defense is no pushover.
Yeah.
Then we got into the conversation, and I said, this game might be 17-14. After I kind of rethought about it, and then the way the game played out in the first half, I looked at you at halftime, and I told you the first team that scores 20 is going to win this game.
Yeah. And Tommy, from one of the, one of our news channel greats here, Tommy him and I were talking, and you were talking to him as well, and he said to me, he was like, it's going to be, like half is going to be like around that, like when it was 10-6, he had like 10-7 or like 13-10, something like that. And so I said to him, I was like, you're not far off.
Right.
And Dino, said, listen, he said, of the top 3 defenses in the ACC, and he said, I regard NC State and us at Syracuse as 2 of those 3, and then maybe Clemson.
Right.
And so people, Devin Leary wasn't there. Yeah, well, NC State's defense is still a pain in the butt to play. And let me say something. MJ Morris and Jack Chambers both filled in at quarterback. Chambers is a vet. Even though he's a backup quarterback, I think he's a grad student.
He's a grad transfer from Charleston Southern or something like that.
So he came out there, and man can run. The man stays poised. He's hard to take down. He can throw the ball out. I mean, the longer he was upright, the more dangerous he got.
Yeah.
And I had to remind myself that A, I was seeing a backup quarterback, and B, it wasn't Malik Cunningham. And some of these other guys that are out there, because he had
those characteristics. I mean, there was plenty of times where JT was right there bleeding on his neck. And he did some kind of juke move to get out of it, So I'm kind of glad that NC State stuck with the run, because you give that young man another 1 or 2 weeks in practice, and you can see what he was doing in the late fourth quarter, you know what I'm saying? So, he has all the ability.
Yeah, Houston running the ball did a good job, too. And Syracuse first downs, as opposed to their opponents, 6-0. Syracuse has 57 first downs, so that's an average of almost 10 first downs a game, to allowing 38. So good news for that in Syracuse's. Oh, pardon me, that's just rushing. And then passing, they have 72 first downs to 43 overall, and then they have 13 by penalty, and they've given up 6 by penalty. Syracuse in 6 games has 142 total first downs to 87 first downs. So huge on that, almost 60 more, and 142 divided by the 6 there. That means that Syracuse is averaging like 20 first downs a game.
And I remember
a little over 20.
Yeah, and I remember old offensive coordinator Mitch Brown, and I believe, said if a team, it could have been done wrong, but if a team can get 20 first downs in a game, that was a good metric for that team to win,
Yeah.
And you see this team right now is averaging at least that much. So
yeah, it's been huge. Rushing wise, Syracuse through 6 games is on the ground. The average is over 200 yards a game. They have 1,243. They've allowed 736. Passing wise, Syracuse has thrown 3 interceptions. They have grabbed 5 interceptions on their side, and so that's obviously been big for Syracuse as well. Passing wise, Syracuse has 1,466 to 1,043. So that number's a little bit closer, but still 400 over. And Syracuse has run 391 total plays on offense to 351, so they got 40 more. The average per play for Syracuse is almost 7 yards compared to 4.6. And Syracuse is averaging 432.8 yards per game as opposed to giving up 268.8. And I'm going to tell you something. That 432.8 total average yards per game total passing and rushing together for Syracuse is typically what Syracuse's defense used to give up. So we're literally seeing Syracuse role reversal in the most positive of ways. Their first downs as well as their points per game to what they give up. And for Syracuse to average over 430 yards per game is crazy compared to that. Again, that used to be Syracuse's number. Syracuse was the team getting 100 to 200 something yards per game, giving up 400. Them getting 400 is incredible here. And Syracuse, here's one of the biggest stats. Through 6 games, Syracuse's offensive touchdowns, 26. Their opponents, 10. So almost triple what they're allowing.
Right, and they haven't given up a touchdown in the last 2 games. You go back and look at it.
Yeah, that's very true. And so, and even more so than anything, Syracuse, knowing after Sean Tucker's touchdown, they made it 24-9 with 2:20 left to go in the game this past weekend, knowing that they had it, they were up by 15, and that there was pretty much slim to 0%, like a less than 1% chance that NC State could possibly score twice. I said to the guys afterward, you can go back and check the videos on Facebook at WakeUpCallDT, Twitter at CallDT, Instagram at WakeUpCall_DT, and subscribe to our YouTube channel on youtube.com/WakeUpCallDT. My one-on-ones with JT Gear, one of the starting DNs, and then my one-on-one with Isaiah Johnson, who was in the two deep at corner, that ended up filling in for Garrett Williams when he went out with an injury in this game against NC State. I talked to them both about that and about the end of the game. I said, you're up 24-9. You guys know you won. And play after play after play, batting it down, knocking it down, keeping it out. They did not allow a single point, didn't allow a field goal, didn't allow a touchdown. I said that to me, more than anything, showed me something about who this team is. That not only did you beat NC State, a top 15, top 13 team, but you beat NC State And at the end of the game where you could have given up a touchdown of laziness, they did not give up a single point. And this is talking about NC State being in your red zone, by your red zone, like right there, challenging, throwing to the end zone. So I thought, to me, more than anything that we could talk about statistically, the fact that Syracuse was up 24-9 with 2:20 to go and didn't give up any garbage points and played defense until the final zeros on the clock and played that game like it was the end of the Purdue game, like it was the end of the Virginia game where they could have lost. I thought that said a lot about them.
No, yeah, I think that's the way they like it too. You ask those guys on the defense, they want to be out there on that field in those critical moments, not giving up a touchdown, defending their end of the field. Offense, like you say, defense will win the game, but the offense go out there and put up the points. That just makes it look nicer than that. But yeah, it's been so many times, like you say, a role reversal that we've given up the 400 yards. Yeah. We're struggling to get 200 yards while we're watching the game. So,
or at the end of the game, Syracuse gives up a touchdown and the game looks a lot closer than it was.
Yeah, exactly.
And then big here as well, I love how they call these the miscellaneous stats, because normally miscellaneous is like, whatever's left over, the crumbs. And to me, miscellaneous, these are the best stats. Third down conversion, Syracuse is just shy of 45%, which means they're just under completing half of their third downs. 44.78% here, 30 for 67, and their opponents are 29 for 79, 36.71% that they're holding them under 40%, and that Syracuse is almost at 45%. On fourth down, Syracuse is 3 for 4. Their opponents are 5 for 12. That's a number that's got to get better. Their opponents are over 41% there. Syracuse has fumbled 5 times, lost 3. Their opponents have fumbled 6 times, lost 4. And then sack-wise, Syracuse has been sacked 13 times. They've sacked their opponents 16 times through 6 games, which is a good stat there. So for them getting that within this, that means that Syracuse is averaging almost 3 sacks a game at this point. And then shout out to my guy Andre Schmidt, the only Syracuse kicker to ever win a Lou Groza Award, which makes no sense that the nation's top kicker wasn't Gary Anderson, Nate Trout, Cole Murphy. There's been a bunch of guys at Syracuse that, like Andre Schmidt, should have it. I'm happy Andre got it. But Andre Schmidt here, so far this season, he is 11 of 12 on field goals, and those are from all different distances. And he's 25 for 25 on extra points. And then in red zone, Syracuse is 26 for 28 in their 6 games at 6-0. Isaac and I would call BS on one of them. It's when they took a knee against Wagner in the red zone. So technically, it should be 26 for 27 in my mind. And of the 26 for 28 that they have, the red zone touchdowns at 26 for 28, more than half of those have been touchdowns. 17 touchdowns in the red zone to 9 field goals.
So that 26 or 27 in the red zone, what we call, basically that's this past game when Trader thought it was a penalty free play. And he threw the pick in the end zone, basically.
Yeah, it's the pick he threw in the end zone when I saw through my camera lens that one of the defensive linemen had moved, and he said after the game, Garrett said, I saw the official look like he was reaching for the flag, and he's like, I can't watch him the whole play. I got to play. So he's like, we all thought it was a free play. I thought it was a free play. The Dome thought it was a free play. So, yeah. So what Isaac is saying here is of Syracuse being 26 of 28 in the red zone, one of them was when it looked like there should have been a flag before the play even happened with an offsides or neutral zone infraction on the defense, and then the other play was when Syracuse took a knee against Wagner. So a missed penalty call and a kneel down keeps Syracuse from being 100% in the red zone. So basically, outside of 2 miscellaneous things, Syracuse is 100%.
Yeah, I take that all day long.
Yeah. I mean, if Dino looks at that and goes, we're 26 of 26, and we're 26 of 26 when there isn't a penalty that should have stopped the play and a kneel down when you're winning 59-0?
Right.
And kneel down should not count against.
Yeah, I don't like that either. Yeah. Well, kneel downs, right.
in 17 of those red zone touchdowns and 9 of those field goals. Syracuse in the past, I don't know if they would have 17 red zone touchdowns in a season. So
Or we
huge.
see it opposite, more field goals than touchdowns. Yeah, exactly.
And Andre Schmidt, for him, from wherever he's kicking from, he's 11 of 12. And I think you had the interesting thing that the only field goal he missed, that the laces were in the wrong place.
Right. Yeah, I think the only one he did miss, they forgot to spin the ball on. So hey, Nate told us, kicking's not easy. It's just not the kicker kicking. There's a whole operation: snap, hold, kick. So it all counts.
If the snapper or if the holder can stop the ball too, because if the ball's still spinning when the kicker kicks it, that's another part of it.
And I think that's where it also came back to where he kicked the laces, because it was just a little high snap, and the holder had to go up a little higher and bring it back down quicker.
Yeah.
And it was
He
just
couldn't
throughout the
turn it,
time.
yeah.
Yeah, just throughout the time. And so,
because you got to think about it. Nobody talks about the holder. They got to take that ball, zipping at them at 10 miles, 15 miles an hour, whatever, 20 miles an hour. They got to catch it, set it, look at it, and as the kicker's going through their motion, as they grab it, put it down, they have to look at the football, and in that split second, turn it to make sure that it's in the right place.
Right.
Because not every kick comes down perfectly, you crazy people that think it does. So
yeah, and then, like you say, Andre will probably give all the credit to everybody in the process. It's just not him kicking it. You know what I'm saying? He knows what it takes to make it. So, yeah, when you just see it, you can't just all assume, he's messing up and this and that. It's a whole process to it, yeah.
And a shout out to my true freshman buddy who's earned himself a job on the field as the kickoff guy, and that is Brady Denneberg, who is trained by Nate Trout being a mentor, both coming from Merritt Island. And thank you to Brady Denneberg. Thank you to Nate for introducing us. Thank you to Brady for letting me be the one on your trail before you got an offer, to be the first person to talk to you when you came to Syracuse, the person to break the story you committed and signed with Syracuse, and one of the first people, and actually, ironically, the first person I saw at camp this year.
Oh,
I was walking into camp. We had never met in person, and I'm walking straight, and he was talking to one of the other guys on the team, and he looked at me, and he goes, "Are you Dan Tortora?" And I said, "Yeah," and he smiled, and he's like, "Brady," and he gave me a hug. And I've also gotten to meet his parents, and you found out through Nate that his entire family are a family of incredible athletes. One of them in Major League Baseball, and and he said arguably the sisters in soccer, some of the greatest stuff. And Brady actually played soccer as well.
Right. And he was an awesome quarterback in high school. Another thing he mentioned.
En route to go to the state championship game in Florida, he on Merritt Island ran the ball twice on a drive, completed a pass to set up his own field goal.
Right.
Which I don't know if there's more than 1% of the world that can say they did that.
Right. He was a total player, just not only a kicker, he's done it all. And I'll be honest with you, after we had that conversation over the weekend, watching him on kickoffs, man, kick and put it in end zone. How many times have we seen kickers?
It's end zone all the time.
You just got to get it in end zone,
End zone.
And
60 yards, just 60 yards like nothing.
Yeah.
And he's literally become automatic.
Yeah, and it makes a big difference to keep, if you got some star returner that bringing it back out.
Yeah.
Now you got those guys that are cocky that are like, oh, yeah, 5 deep, I'm gonna still bring it out, and then what you see, this special team swarming them. And they're now behind the 15-yard line, just because of their arrogance and stuff like that. Yeah. So it's a big deal, on special teams.
If you're going to take it out, Brady's going to make you take it where the letters are.
Exactly. So he's done a fantastic job. I watched, like you said, after we had that interview, that was one of the things I was just watching. NC State kicker kicking it out of bounds. Yeah, he's putting it 10 yards deep into the end zone.
And if you look at what whoever Syracuse has played against in these first 6 games en route to 6-0, if you look at the games, most of those kickers are kicking to Syracuse's return guys like Trevor Pena and Courtney Jackson and whatnot. They're kicking to them in the field.
Right.
Like, how many times have you seen Pena have to take it out of the end zone?
Right. Not too many. That's a big advantage when you got a kicker that can do that. So, yeah, definitely.
And I'm a proponent, and Brady, I think, would like this. I think Nate would like this, too. Copyright and TM, before I say it, is that I think that we should, on kickoff at least, with the way that Brady's kicking off, and if somebody decides to take it out, how well special teams has been tackling, which is an understatement, which we didn't see in past years. I think we should call the special teams unit, at least the kickoff unit, the Brady Bunch.
There you go. I like that.
Yeah. So, and twice in this NC State game, their kickoff guy kicked it out of bounds, and Syracuse got the penalty. So,
yeah.
And how many times have you seen Brady do that? That many.
And I want to say both times it happened, we scored a touchdown, I believe. Did he start the game off that way?
Yeah,
I believe we took the first open. And then I want to say late in the second half, we started with the ball on the 35.
Because he couldn't get it in.
Because actually, now we've talked about it, going back to the game, second half, we've only had 2 possessions in the second, if I remember correctly, and we scored touchdowns on both of those.
For a third quarter one and a fourth
quarter.
Yeah, because
NC State had the ball for so long.
NC State had the ball for
times.
almost 8 minutes of the third quarter.
Right.
When they came out in the third quarter, I remember sitting there going, and I asked one of the other people in the media, I go, this is the first drive of the second half, right? Because it took so long.
Exactly.
And
it was like
so,
7.5 minutes or something like that.
There were games where Syracuse has gotten 5 possessions in one quarter. Syracuse got 2 possessions in the second half. NC State got 3. And Syracuse had to wait almost 8 minutes in the second half to get the ball for the first time.
Right.
Which was nuts.
And the defense, they still didn't give a touchdown for being that time disparity. You know what I'm saying?
And it was 8 minutes.
Yeah.
So credit to Syracuse and credit to the defense and the offense and the special teams. It has the 3 phases of the game, and it's important to have every single one of those phases. So nobody buys a pie full price at any supermarket that has a giant, one of the 3 big slices cut out of it, right? You don't go, oh, let me get that key lime. Who had some of that? Oh, Gerald did. Oh, Gerald, that's cool, bro. How much is this? Is this on sale because you had a third of it? Like, no, man, full price. All right, man. You know what? Why don't you just charge me 20 instead of 17? Because I like to pay more for less. So the reality of it all is you cut that football pie into offense, defense, and special teams. You take any of it out, the team falters. No special teams coordinator last year. You saw the team falter. Coach Ligashevsky, shout out to you at Syracuse on special teams. Coach White, you're going to be a head coach someday. Shout out to you as D coordinator. And shout out to Robert Anai, who I don't think of as an assistant, and he's offensive coordinator. And shout out to the incredible family that came with Coach Anai's family, the Beck family. Jason Beck, his wife Jamie. She puts out all these incredible messages. She's loved Cuse Nation, Orange Nation since they came in. And she's just been a wonderful breath and spirit of fresh air. So I want to shout out the Beck family because when you find positivity, you gotta scream it, because negativity always seems to be the loudest person in the room, and that's just because positivity is humble. So let me be loud for the other positive people out there and make sure we drown out the negativity. To the Beck family and the Anai family and the Johnson family and to and Coach Ligashevsky, to your family, to all the new coaches, welcome. To all the families that have been here, the Lynches and the Monroes from the beginning, and the Babers.
Coach Johnson too coming in.
Yeah. So all of them, and big ups to Coach Jay with the receivers and Lig for special teams, and Coach Beck doing the quarterbacks, and Coach Anai, offensive coordinator. But big fan of everybody, and I'm a big fan of the Beck family because they just seem like literally the nicest, sweetest, come over to our house and borrow some sugar type of thing, don't give it back type of thing.
Right.
Like, oh yeah, you can borrow it, and then them saying oh, why don't you just keep it? like honestly, Jason Beck's wife seems like one of the nicest people.
Yeah, she do. I enjoyed her posts, and like you said, the love they shown the community, and the community showing it back to them. And you know what? It takes all 85 on the roster, however many is on the coaching staff, everybody in that building.
Yeah, plus
to build,
the scouts.
Yeah, to build what they've been doing so far. And it's big ups to everybody. Props to that.
Yeah. And so we will take a step aside for a fast break. We got one more thing to address, and that's the other Orange team that's on the schedule. It's going to be a Sea of Orange at Death Valley, which is great for Syracuse fans because you'll blend in and hopefully continue to be loud. So I hope that the Loud House is traveling down to Death Valley. Syracuse, Clemson, 2 orange, one's orange and purple, one's orange and blue. Whichever team's going to win this game is the one that's the least black and blue. We'll come out, as Dino said, we hit them, and we hit them, and we hit them, and we hit them. So we will take a step aside for a fast break. We'll come back right after this fast break from inside the Cafe Kubal studios with a final word on Tortora and Alford here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. This is a special message from Merritt Brady, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Watertown on 1290 Arsenal Street in Watertown, New York.
Chick-fil-A for me has always been about the people. I think it starts with the strength and leadership of the Cathy family. It's just amazing to see a family-run business reach the altitude that they have. Second mile service is something that we embodied at my previous business, and the ability to make people feel like they're the only person at your establishment, that you are there to serve them that day and looking for those extra ways to make them happy, to anticipate what they need next is what makes me tick. And I'm going to have so many opportunities at Chick-fil-A to do that. It's one of my favorite things to eat in the world. My favorite application question or interview question when I'm interviewing is when I get to, have you ever eaten at Chick-fil-A? And a smile hits both their ears. You know, they can't even answer the question for a second. And when I see that, it's like, man, that's going to be a great hire. They already get it. They already feel it. They already know that we're different. The Chick-fil-A experience, it's a real thing. And then, of course, just our generosity and community involvement and making a positive impact in the lives of our team members, our guests, and the community in general, I think is really the secret sauce.
Chick-fil-A Watertown on 1290 Arsenal Street in Watertown, New York. Coming to you, fall 2022. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for this edition of Tortora and Alford inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios. Cafe Kubal on 3501 James Street, 324 West Water Street, 401 South Salina Street, all in Syracuse. You should be typing this to me in the feeds because y'all should know this already. 343 Fayette Street in Manlius, New York, and on the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road at Sweetheart Corners in North Syracuse for their drive-through location. So make sure you head out there today. And for those of you out of town, you can go to cafecubal.com. If you want to know what something tastes like, ask me. I've probably had it. And pumpkin spice chai, homemade with the spices and the syrups and everything right there at Cafe Kubal. It's so wonderful. I get chai nowhere else, and pumpkin spice, it's got to be from Cafe Kubal. It's just like I just melt. So it's awesome. So that wasn't a good melt. A good melt would be me like, you know, like, bah! You know, like that. But I was just like, oh, I melt. Ah. So, you know, we got to talk to the graphics people here. We got to spend a little bit more money in the budget. So, but we're here to talk Isaac Alford, myself, Dan Tortora. He's wearing a shirt that I literally just wore like a day ago. And we had the same shirt. He saw me wearing it one day. And he said, I have the same one at home. So we are here and enjoying ourselves inside the Cafe Kubal Studios. It's smelling good in here. So, you know, this is the best thing, folks. I'm going to tell you something. The Witty Wicks candles, if you went to the Dome this past Saturday and you came home, and I'm not going to say who it was, but one of you smells like Dome Dogs or beef jerky. Or one of you smells like the trows. I call them the cattle herding things that we get to pee in. The troughs. So the troughs. I don't know how to pronounce it. Whatever it is, the cattle pee station. So where you're supposed to milk each other. It's another story for a different day. And so I just gave myself a visual. I'll never go to the bathroom in there again. So whatever you see, or so popcorn, whatever y'all smell like. What I was getting to is you go to Witty Wicks and you smell better. You know. This is like your home's best deodorant is what I'll say. So go out to Witty Wicks. The one I got here is Namaste at Home. It's a peaceful, beautiful fragrance that helps me relax. You know, zen myself. So Isaac and I, my birthday is this Friday, October 21st, as I said. I'm having a party on Saturday, October 22nd. We'll be there because it's my party and he gets to come. So we're going to be there, and on Saturday, October 22nd, it's immediately following the game. Yeah. So I have an early birthday celebration with Syracuse being 6-0, bowl-bound in the nation's top 15, and defeating NC State in a big-time game with a team and a coach I respect very much so. And in front of a sellout crowd. So I got to celebrate my birthday early. In order to expand my birthday even longer, I would like Syracuse to beat Clemson on my party day, because that would be even more to party about. So your thoughts on Syracuse and Clemson in Death Valley Clemson undefeated and 7-0. Syracuse had a bye week, so they're 6-0.
Yeah, almost two teams know each other. No, we know what talent that Clemson brings in, and then we know how well so far this year the talent that Syracuse staff has been coaching up. But you look at DJ and you look at Garrett, both kind of neck and neck. DJ had one more game to play than Garrett.
Yeah.
But the stats coming almost similar. Both big quarterbacks that mobile can get out the pocket and run. Both teams hang their hat on defense. So it's going to be definitely a great game to see both teams come battle with each other. Clemson's going to have the home field advantage there in Death Valley, but I don't think Death Valley can be any more louder than the Loud House was this past Saturday.
Yeah.
So, you know what? It's going to be an interesting game. You got two good running backs, going to be facing off against two good defenses. So, you know what? The team that can reduce the number of mistakes, take care of the ball, it can be the team that put the pressure on the other one to keep up in the game. So, it's going to be interesting. I think, Syracuse always played Clemson well, no matter whether it's here at home or down in Death Valley. There's been the years that, they've given us a little bit of the business, as you want to say. But more than not, any team that in the Atlantic Division over the last few years has always been that Syracuse-Clemson matchup that, hey, when we had our quarterback healthy, when able to play against you, and, we were able to give them some trouble.
Yeah, and Isaac talks about the similarity statistically and Clemson having one extra game. So remember that these numbers are very similar, and Clemson had an extra 4 quarters. DJ Uiagalelei coming out of this, quarterback for Clemson, out of his 7 games, 1,665 yards. In 6 games, Garrett Schrader for Syracuse, 1,434 yards. DJ has a 64.3% completion percentage. Garrett has a 69.7% completion percentage. DJ 7.8 yards on average per pass. Garrett 9.4 yards for the guy that a lot of people say can't pass that's not named Dan Tortora. 17 touchdowns passing to 2 interceptions for DJ through 7 games. Through 6 games, 12 touchdowns to 3 interceptions for Garrett Schrader. Schrader's been sacked 13 times. DJ's been sacked 11 times. And then you look at running the ball. For Clemson, they're led by running back Will Shipley, who has 96 attempts. Tucker's got almost 30 more with 124. And we have Shipley with 567 yards through 7 games. Through 6 games, Sean Tucker has 644, so he has more through less. And then you have 5.9 yards a carry for Will Shipley, 5.2 for Sean Tucker. Shipley has 8 rushing touchdowns. Tucker has 6. And the second leading rusher on Clemson is their quarterback. The second leading rusher on Syracuse is their quarterback. DJ has 337 yards on 81 carries. Garrett has 300 yards on 78 carries. Almost exactly the same there by carries and yards. And DJ's 4.2 yards a carry. Garrett is 3.8. Garrett has 5 rushing touchdowns. DJ has 4. And so very close, just even looking at two players.
Yeah, just looking at the stats and, with them with one extra game on their belt. So, like I said, it's two teams coming into the matchup that are kind of similar, when you look at them on paper. And we know Clemson got an awesome defense, just like we mentioned, like the top 3 in the conference, like as Dino would say, Clemson, us, at Syracuse, and NC State. So, it's definitely going to be a battle, you know what? And it's like you say, it's going to be the team that's going to come out without the black and blue marks all over themselves that can survive, And you know what? Maybe, Syracuse can come in now that we had our bye week.
Yeah.
A time to recuperate a little bit. We got the rust back off of us playing the NC State game. You know what?
Where Clemson's had to just keep playing.
Yeah, Clemson's been through like I said, I love the way the schedule's set up for us because Clemson had to fight through Wake Forest. They had to fight through NC State. They just fought through Florida State.
Yeah.
So
barely.
Yeah, exactly. So now we've gotten our rhythm back a little bit. We've got a game tape that we can go back and clean up some stuff with, and now we can focus on Clemson and can come into that Clemson game saying, okay, let's see what we can game plan against that team. So, you know what? I'm anxious and I'm ready to see the game.
Also can't understate the fact that Syracuse came out of a bye week playing as strong as they did. Because sometimes you wonder if they're going to have to, stretch and get back into it They look like they never left.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that. Shout out to OG. Even though we've talked so much in this, so many things we've talked about, but around, Gadsden
New
again.
single game career high, 141 yards receiving, and had 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, exactly. You know what? And I know a lot of people still want to see us get another option, but one thing you got to, and I always joke about it, coming into the games that we need to keep them on the field when we need them on the field, but that's just the nature of the offense.
Other people are echoing you as well.
Right.
He has 3 100-yard games in 6 games, so 50% of the time he's getting 100 yards. And keep in mind, folks, he scored his first career touchdown here this season. He had his first 100-yard game here this season. His best game was 112 yards against Purdue. He just beat that with 141 against the NC State Wolfpack team. And he had a double touchdown game. So, I mean, the only touchdown passes that Garrett Schrader threw were 2 Oronde Gadsden.
Right. And I think I've seen somewhere where they said he's leading the conference in total touchdowns with 6, I believe.
Yeah. So they got him at 507 yards, 5 touchdowns, and he averages 84.5 yards per game. And he's got 31 catches this season, and so he's been good. And if we can break it down game by game, you can take a look here and see if I can do. Can I do game by game individuals? I don't know.
Is it clicking on that?
If I go individual, and I click on Oronde, let's see if I can do this here. So Oronde's, if I can do it somewhere else.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So Oronde has a touchdown. So he has 3 out of 6 games he's gotten at least 100 yards receiving, and 3 out of 6 games he's scored. He had 1 touchdown against Louisville. That was his first career collegiate touchdown. 2 against Purdue, which was his former highest game of 112, and 2 against NC State with 141, which is his new high.
Yeah. And the thing about their offense, though, is they rotate so many people in. They put people in different positions.
And I said, when's Damian Alford going to get out there? And we saw him get a big grab.
Yeah, he made a big catch towards the end, but they're doing so many different
good problem to have.
Sets. It's a good problem to have that other people get an opportunity to get a chance to catch the ball. And Garrett, he'll get his opportunities where, again, this is his first year in the system. Yeah. We want him to be, this guy doing that and hitting this guy. But he's learning the plays and seeing how other teams defend them, game plan against them. Yeah. So naturally, as they watch the film, we're probably going to see other people start to catch some numbers on the back at the end of the season. So
and a bunch of guys have caught a pass. Amari Hatcher. So Amari Hatcher caught a touchdown, his first ever collegiately. DeMarcus Adams is a transfer into Syracuse. He's already got a touchdown. Isaiah Jones, he got a touchdown. Through the air, Damian Alford has a touchdown. Courtney Jackson has a touchdown. Devon Cooper has a touchdown. And Oronde Gadsden has 5. And that's just naming receivers that have a receiving touchdown. And Sean Tucker also has one as well. And we know that Dan Villari, who came in as a quarterback and a backup from Michigan, he's been playing. He played receiver a little bit here. He's caught at least a pass. Maximilian Mang, tight ends, caught a pass. Anthony Quealy at wide receivers caught a pass. LaQuint Allen, true freshman running backs, caught a pass. C.J. Hayes has caught a pass. And, we look at, I think that's everybody that I named here. I said Trevor Pena, if I didn't say that before. So you got a bunch of guys here. And you look at this, like you said, first year in a new offense. And you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 players in 6 games have caught a receiving touchdown.
And we've seen, maybe, I don't want you to pull up last year's stats, but I'm pretty sure last year's stats. Yeah, exactly. Passing wasn't a forte last year. So definitely you can see in previous seasons, we've probably been lucky to have maybe 3 or 4 people catch a touchdown pass.
I think having a wide receiver in the last few years for Syracuse history, having 5 touchdowns in a season was saying a lot. I mean, I think last year Syracuse, leading receiver, ended the season with 300-something yards.
Yes.
Where, Oronde Gadsden through 6 games has 507.
Right. Exactly.
Which is nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, he's on pace to be a 1,000-yard receiver.
Yeah, exactly.
Which would be really cool to see.
Yeah, it would be nice.
So, just looking at this again as a team, Clemson 38.6 points per game, Syracuse 36, like we told you, so almost dead even there. And then we look at total touchdowns. Clemson has 33 offensively. Syracuse has 26. So very close here. First downs, 150 for Clemson. And mind you, Clemson's played an extra game.
Mm-hmm.
So Clemson has a little bit more, barely, on Syracuse in these areas. And so they have 150 first downs through 7 games. Syracuse has 142 through 6 games. And then you look at fourth down. Clemson's 100%. They're 4 for 4. Syracuse is 3 for 4 at 75%. And then you look at Clemson third down in 7 games. They're 50.4%. And Syracuse is just shy of being 46% here on third down. And then you look at some of the other pieces. We talked about the passing and rushing side of things. So, I mean, it's been pretty crazy how close Syracuse is here to Clemson overall. And Clemson has had 9 fumbles, lost 3 through 7 games. And Syracuse has had 5, lost 3. So they've had 4 less, lost the same amount. Syracuse is +5 in the turnover ratio. Clemson is +6 in 7 games. Syracuse in 6. So again, they're almost dead even in multiple team statistics and individual statistics. And Clemson has played 1 extra game than Syracuse, and yet Syracuse is almost dead even with them.
Yeah, and that tells you how great this season is.
Tells you that Syracuse has done more with less.
Yeah, exactly. And
well, Dan Wagner. Okay, well, Clemson also plays those teams.
Yeah, don't even bring up their schedule. I was just looking at it on the ACC network. I'm like, how do they get like 4 away games for the whole season? I mean, they got a Ohio State schedule. You know, I was like, we need to work this magic in Syracuse because I would love to have 8 home games. You know?
Oh yeah, Clemson played Furman, and they didn't shut them out. They played Louisiana Tech and allowed 20 points there. They beat Georgia Tech on neutral ground here at 41-10. They went to double overtime with Wake Forest on the road. They beat NC State at home by 10. They blew out Boston College on the road. They beat Florida State most recently this past week that Syracuse went to 6-0. Clemson went to 7-0, defeating Florida State 34-28 in Tallahassee. They'll play ranked Syracuse, then they'll play at unranked Notre Dame right after Syracuse plays Notre Dame at home. Then they'll play unranked Louisville at home, unranked Miami at home, and unranked South Carolina at home, with 4 out of their last 5 games at home and their last 3 at home. And they started off the season with a bunch of games at home.
Yeah, other than the neutral site game, the first one, yeah.
So you got a neutral site game, and then you have 3 of 4 at home, and then you end the season with 4 of 5 at home. Syracuse started with the majority at home and ends with the most on the road.
Right.
So Clemson somehow got the majority at home and the majority at home on bookends, and Syracuse got the majority at home and then a friggin' gauntlet.
and everything's away. Yeah.
Right. And so just to go to show you that the better you are over time, you get more favorable schedules to make sure that you stay on top.
I guess so. I mean, to like you say, the whatever the word I can't even get the thing out.
Yeah.
To the winner goes to spoils or whatever.
Yeah.
You know. So hey,
the victor goes.
The
to
victor.
spoils.
There you go. So, but yeah, I mean, this definitely
the victor goes to spoils, and to the ex-girlfriend goes the engagement.
Another topic for another time.
Not legally, but in her mind. Mind. What is law?
Yeah. What is it? Possessions is what? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, what is life without law? I live it every day.
But no, I think this game definitely going to show a lot about both teams so far in this season, coming in and seeing definitely who's going to be able to take the upper hand in the division. That's how important this game is.
Literally, whoever wins this, Clemson either gets a further advantage on Syracuse, or Syracuse literally flips it and takes first place. If and when Syracuse were to win this game, Syracuse is in the driver's seat to have the division, and if they win out, if and when Syracuse beats Clemson, they take first place, and if they win out, they're guaranteed their spot in the final game here. So Syracuse is literally in a place right now to flip the script with Clemson, take first place in the Atlantic, and go to the ACC championship game and be in the driver's seat. If not, then, Wake Forest and NC State and Florida State will tell you, in these games in the middle of the season where you have a chance to flip it and you don't, Clemson usually makes you pay, and they never give it up after that.
Right. You definitely can't. And looking at
And
Clemson,
NC State tried, and Wake Forest tried, and Florida State tried. So
that's what I was going to say.
Syracuse might be the last attempt at keeping Clemson out of the ACC championship.
And Clemson already played the top dogs or the hunters in the Atlantic Conference side of the conference.
Yeah, they have to play South Carolina.
Yeah, well, I mean, if they even lose to South Carolina, it's not going to do anything for them. But yeah,
I'm just kidding because South Carolina's been a shell of themselves. And at the end of the season, oh my gosh, they have to play Miami at home. That wonderful, that beautiful nightmare that Miami has
tropical
become.
storm.
Yeah, I said Miami's not a hurricane. It's been downgraded to a tropical storm. It's actually a light sea breeze right now.
So this game means a lot to Syracuse, and even when Syracuse gets through this game, they still got a couple more opponents that they're not giving up on their season either. Because if Syracuse takes down Clemson, that's just making it even more important for Wake Forest.
Yeah.
They're like, all right, now it's our time to get back into this, race or whatnot. Florida State is, they already lost 3 in a row, so they might be a little bit.
Wake Forest, NC State, they're hoping Syracuse wins this game.
Yeah, exactly.
And just to put something cool into perspective as well, Syracuse for the first time in a long time in this type of, I know when they play Clemson they get this, but for the first time first time since 1987 are they 6-0 to start the season. And Syracuse and Clemson will not only be the first game that you see on Saturday at noon Eastern time on Saturday, October 22nd, but OMG, it won't be on the ACC network. This game will be on Rabbit Ear, basic. How did I somehow get Spectrum to not have to give me a box and I can still find my basic cable without telling anybody, and I feel like I'm functioning in a cave in some long-lost place in the past because you have to pay for everything. But if you get 3, 5, and 9 on your Rabbit Ear aluminum foil television, Syracuse is on ABC this weekend, and that to me is the best thing since TGIF used to be there with Boy Meets World, Step by Step, Family Matters, Dinosaurs, and Full House.
That's quite a good lineup too.
Best lineup.
Yeah.
None of those were on the ACC network.
None. ACC network. What is that? So they definitely gonna have the eyes and homes that, like you said, that can tune in, and it's an opportunity for them to go down there and show the nation.
Yeah, heck, you can lay in bed and watch this game.
Yeah,
you can sleep in on Saturday and just watch the game and enjoy it in bed. Make yourself a little little breakfast in bed.
That sounds like a game plan.
Yeah, because after that it's party time.
Oh yeah, it's party time after that. Yeah.
So and this number 44 is obviously for my late great friend Floyd Little, and for Sean Tucker passing Floyd with his first carry of the game, 38 yards, and eventually getting 98 yards to get to 2,766. His first carry of the game against NC State around the edge for 38 yards gave him 2,706, which passed Floyd Little 2,704. May you rest in peace, Floyd. So Sean is now 6th all time and now has the opportunity to crack into the top 5, which I believe he will. And also in memory of Floyd, Jim Brown, and Ernie Davis, and everybody before that was honored in the Ring of Honor. Remember that they used to be called something else.
Yeah, something. Yeah,
something else. So I had to go old with old to celebrate the old and love the new. Shout out to Sean Tucker and Floyd Little. Shout out to Jim Brown, who sent off a nice message. I hope that you stay healthy and do well. And shout out to Ernie in heaven, all of our orange that is passed on, all of our orange that's here, all of our orange that's yet to come, and of course, to my man Floyd. I love you, brother. And you know it and I know it. Deborah, your wife, still a timeless beauty, looked absolutely strong, powerful, and incredible on that field at halftime, and like she always does.
Yeah, exactly.
She's just a killer.
Yeah, so, great tribute on it at halftime. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. So, and you said what? It was.
The way they did the video was awesome. I loved it. It was like it was Jim, the GOAT. It was Ernie, the Elmira Express. Yeah. And then it was Floyd, the franchise. I love that. That was a nice touch.
And having Floyd as the franchise, just to let you know, folks, talking to someone down in Denver, Colorado, who is in the broadcasting industry, he told me, he said, Dan, some people might tell you John Elway is the face of the Denver Broncos, but anybody that actually knows the Denver Broncos and the history, and if you talk to anyone down here in Colorado, we would tell you without doubt that the face of our franchise is Floyd Little. So not only the face of Syracuse, but the face of the Denver Broncos, and just so happened to have the same colors, orange and blue. So shout out to Floyd, shout out to Sean, shout out to the 6-0 Orange, bowl bound with a half a season to go. We already know that we're going somewhere, hopefully warmer with palm trees in December, if not January. For now, for Tortora and Alford, we have Isaac Alford, myself, Dan Tortora, and you here with us. And of course, every Monday during the season, we've been bringing you Tortora and Alford. And of course, every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. In general, you have Wake Up Call throughout the week on YouTube.com, Facebook.com, and MixLR.com/WakeUpCallDT. You also have us on Facebook.com/LiveNowDT and on WakeUpCallDT.com's homepage. Make sure to bookmark and subscribe to our website, WakeUpCallDT.com. Once the shows go live, you can catch us on Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, MixLR, Player FM, Podbean, Podvine, TuneIn, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube, and so on, and Partridge in a Pear Tree. So all you got to do is search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on any one of these outlets, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. You can also ask Alexa and your Google Home devices, Cortana, all them girls. You can ask, what is it, Cortana, Alexa, Siri. You can ask them all to find Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and they'll do that for you. Big shout out to all of our wonderful partners, Cafe Kubal, Carvel DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, Witty Wicks, PB&J's Lunchbox, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Avicoli's, Mon Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, Canine Campground Dog Boarding, Pizza Man, Chick-fil-A Cicero and Chick-fil-A Clay, Honda City of Liverpool, Chick-fil-A Watertown, Mother's Cupboard, and of course we are very proud to be the exclusive multimedia marketing partner of your Lemoyne College Dolphins. It is Fins Up every single month on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Of course, you have the Dolphins with us every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time during Dolphin Time. And when you have that Dolphin Time here with us, folks, you have the opportunity to hang out with us every first and third Wednesday of each month for AD and DT with Athletics Director Bob Beretta and myself, Dan Tortora. And every second and fourth Wednesday, we dive into the stories of student athletes, as well as coaches, administration, future Dolphins, and alumni in our Dolphin Dive special. So make sure you check those out. You can get all of our content with the Dolphins by simply making yourself available to WakeUpCallDT.com and clicking on the Lemoyne tab and bookmarking it, subscribing to us on YouTube.com/WakeUpCallDT, and of course, for more information, go to LeMoyneDolphins.com. The Bryan and Stratton College Bobcats of Syracuse are also exclusive multimedia marketing partners with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. The Bobcat Buzz comes to you every single month, all throughout the month. You never know when they're coming. That's why you got to be ready, just like a bobcat. It can pounce. I wanted to say pronounce and pounce at the same time. Well, I can pronounce correctly sometimes, but they can pounce on you at any time. The Bobcat Buzz coming to you with student athletes, coaches, and administration all throughout. We just had a PTA program, physical therapist assistant program, which has 100% job placement out of Bryan and Stratton College of Syracuse. You don't want to miss out on that. You can get your degree in less than 2 years from Bryan and Stratton, so make sure you get in touch with them today for their PTA program and more. Find out all of the stories from the Bobcats by going to the BSC Syracuse tab on WakeUpCallDT.com, subscribing to YouTube.com/WakeUpCallDT, and for more information, go to Syracuse.bscbobcats.com. With that being said, you can find us on Facebook at WakeUpCallDT, the Twitter at CallDT, Instagram at WakeUpCall_DT, and of course, WakeUpCallDT.com, and on YouTube, as I said before, YouTube.com/WakeUpCallDT. I had a goal this year when we were on YouTube of getting to 100 subscribers. And over the weekend, late Saturday night after the Syracuse win, I took this picture. My goal was to have on our Wake Up Call DT channel to have 100 subscribers by the end of this year. Thanks to you. Can you see it? Maybe not. But thanks to you, there you can kind of, I have to dip it down. We have 500 subscribers here And so my goal was 100.
There you
we
go.
multiplied it by 5. 500 subscribers, over 3,000 videos. Plenty of stuff for you to do. People say to me, Dan, what do you do what are people going to do when you go on vacation? I'm like, there is over 1,600 audio episodes. There is like 13 places to listen to the show. YouTube has over 3,000 videos, and there's like 20 some odd pages going on WakeUpCallDT.com. I've done enough work that they can find something. So thank you for finding us. Thank you for looking for us. If somebody hasn't found us or doesn't know about us, tell your family, friends, coworkers, colleagues, and neighbors. In the meantime, from the Cafe Kubal Studios, this is Wake Up Call. That is Isaac. I'm DT. And we'll talk with you soon on the 6-0 Orange, rolling up the hill and heading to the second half of their season. God bless. No stress. Do your best. Take care.